everybody, Foley here, and today we're going to be taking a look at 90 games coming ahead in 2024 that I have on my radar, on my release schedule, or what have you. So we're going to talk real quickly before we get into it about what games exactly will be showing up or what the criteria was. So criteria number one, they need to have an actual release date in 2024. So some of these have full-on release dates, like it'll be X day, X month, 2024. Some of them are just some stage in this month. Some of them will be this quarter, and then some of them are just 2004 at some point. So we won't be going into games that are like, we know they're coming, but we don't know when. Like Death Stranding 2 doesn't have a release date. It might come out next year. Probably not. As well as more that are escaping my head. Half-Life 3, I'm sure it's going any minute now, right? Anyway, so 80 of these games have definite minimum 2024 in it, and then there's 10 at the end that I've thrown in as kind of maybe we'll see them. Maybe we'll see them next year, but probably not. But anyway, we'll put them in. So first up, we have so number one, Bulletstorm VR. Hey Melvin, how you getting on? Bulletstorm VR. That will be number one. It is coming out the 18th of January next year. So you should be able to hear a little bit of the trailer. Okay, anyway, so Bulletstorm VR is by People Can Fly. People Can Fly are the same people who made the original Bulletstorm, and they're also the people behind Outriders, recent pseudo online service multiplayer shooter game that was a little disappointing. Hopefully Bulletstorm, since it's already a good game in its own right, the adaptation to VR won't cause any issues. What I am liking is that it does have full gun support, or full hand support rather, so a lot of first-person VR things, they kind of just move the camera and they don't take into account that you're actually present in the world, that your hands can go in different directions, you can dual wield and that kind of stuff. But it looks like what they're doing with Bulletstorm VR, they are planning to make that a thing, so you can like aim properly in the way you might imagine. What will be interesting is like the grappling hook mechanic the Bulletstorm VR has. How sick is that going to make people? We'll see how that works out. Anyway, that is coming to PC VR and PSVR 2 on the 18th of January 2024. Next up, we have another game that is coming out at the same date. Another game coming out on the 18th of January, and it is Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. So let me just get the trailer up for it as well. Okay, so Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown was shown off at the Game Awards, I think, last, or maybe it was Summer Games Fest. Actually, it might have been the Game Awards of last year, 2023's Game Awards. And it's billing itself as sort of a return to the original Prince of Persia, which was a side-scrolling platform combat type thing. But they're going more for a sort of Metroidvania feel this time around. I'm optimistic that this will turn out pretty well. It is from the team at Ubisoft who are responsible for Rayman, the side-scrolling Rayman games, which feel really good to play. They're actually pretty tough games as well, so I feel like they have the qualifications to make a really good side-scrolling platforming, at least, game. Combat-wise, I'm not entirely sure. Rayman combat wasn't exactly amazing. So we'll see how that turns out. They're also responsible for a bunch of mobile ports, so we'll see which team was working on The Lost Crown. Okay. Then number 3 on our list will be coming out on the 26th of January. And it will be Yakuza, or Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Wish OBS would make it easier for me to change all of this stuff, but it doesn't like me doing that. Anyway, okay, so Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth This is technically Yakuza 8, I think. And kind of interesting this time, we're once again playing as the new protagonist, so we're not Kazuma Kiryu anymore. And also they are changing locations. So if you have played the Yakuza series, you'll know that, or the Like a Dragon series, as they insist on calling it now. It used to take place exclusively in like 2 different cities. It was like I forget what their in-game name is. It's Dotonbori is the real place in Japan. I forget what it's called in the actual game. But anyway, they've moved. They're now in the US. They're going to be in Hawaii specifically. And there'll be various Yakuza shenanigans going on. This was the trailer that was eventually censored. I think I got the uncensored version. He never gets his dick out, but his ass is in full display, I think, at some point in the trailer. And I think it was then... Yeah, it was uploaded later to avoid it showing off anything. Anyway, the Like a Dragon series has... Well, the trailer is actually hilarious, the whole thing. And it goes on even further to some additional stuff. The series itself has changed to a almost turn-based type games, like a pseudo turn-based type thing, as opposed to the action-adventure types, real-time combat that the series had been known for. They changed in Like a Dragon 7, or Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon, whatever way you want to call it. When they change protagonists, the new protagonist is exclusively a turn-based kind of thing. Don't worry about it saying Xbox. It is on everything except the Switch. It'll be on all platforms, even the previous generation platforms, and so on. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. They did also show off a little extra bit of the game that is basically Animal Crossing. And it's like its own fully fledged game. It could be all by itself, but it's just a sub game. The Like a Dragon series always has like ridiculously detailed sub games. And this is probably one of their most ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. Next up, we have a change of month. This time it's too much nudity for the Switch, exactly. No, not January. February. That's not how you spell February. This is why you don't do this live. February. Alright, 1st of February. Number 4. And this is going to be Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. So this will be a game just for me, I think. Guess the art for this one is too small. Anyway. Okay, so Grand Blue Fantasy. Grand Blue in general is this sort of long-running Korean MMO type thing. But Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is a single-player, fairly big JRPG type thing. And it's going to be using a lot of characters that are probably pretty well known in the Grand Blue series, and they'll just sort of have their own cohesive story. What I'm liking from it is a lot of the real-time combat feels very fluid, very dynamic. You know, you're not getting the sort of... way to put it... You're not getting the kind of stilted, fake real-time action that you get in a lot of JRPGs. This feels like it's a proper fighting game. And Grand Blue actually has its own fighting game out at the moment. Or it's in beta at the moment or something like that. Anyway, it looks suitably ridiculous. Like some Shadow of the Colossus style enemies. They'll be interesting to fight. And I just kind of want to see how it plays out. Will it play out well? You know, how big of a pain in the ass will what are almost certainly gacha mechanics that will show up in the thing and that kind of thing. But it looks cool, so that's good enough. 1st of February for that one, and I think that is... it's going to be PC and PlayStation exclusive. Alright, then we have... Alright, see if you can guess what it is before I get there. It should have been out this year. It should have been out several times this year. And was delayed multiple times because people really, really didn't like what they saw the first time they showed it off. Know what it is yet? That's right. It's Suicide Squad. Alright, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Next up. I kind of wish all of these fucking cover arts were all the same size. That would make things a lot easier for me. Anyway. So, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League 2nd of February. This was supposed to be out earlier this year. And the issue... What am I hearing? 1 second. I'm hearing some... Sorry. Try that again. Okay, sorry. I have music playing in the background so I don't talk too low, and it decided to play something very, very loud there for a second. Anyway, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. It was shown off earlier this year to pretty much universal condemnation. Nobody really liked what they saw. This kind of looked like Fortnite, a little too much like Fortnite, very much not like the Arkham series, which we had come to know of. Remember, this is from Rocksteady. These are the people behind the well-received Arkham games, not the Arkham Origins game. The last game they worked on was Arkham VR. So since then, they've been working on this game. And it's largely felt like it was a bit of a disappointment. So yeah, we're going to see how it turns out. I'm more or less just watching for a train wreck at this point, but I am, morbid fascination. I do want to see how bad it is. I can't necessarily say I'm looking forward to it. I am in the sense that I want to see where they're going with Batman's story specifically because of how it ends in Arkham Knight. There's some shenanigans they'll have to do to make that work. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's like if you tell me, yeah, it's a Justice League game and you don't get to play as any member of the Justice League. I'm like, why did you bother making this game? Why did you bother? I don't want to play as 4 characters that are basically the same. You just run around and shoot things. I want to be Superman or Green Lantern or Wonder Woman or whatever, or the Flash. I don't want to be the Flash, but any of those other characters would be great. Anyway. Okay. After that, we have coming out on the 8th of February. This game called I the Inquisitor, or just The Inquisitor. Everything has tiny fucking art for some reason. Okay, so The Inquisitor, I'm kind of interested in just because of how dumb it sounds. So the kind of general gist of The Inquisitor is that, as you can probably tell from the trailer, it's like an alternative history, alternative Bible thing where instead of being crucified, Jesus says, fuck this, breaks down from the cross and kills everybody and decides to become God King of the earth. Now, you just flash forward however many hundreds of years, you're an inquisitor with like the Grand Church or something like that. You're like judge, jury, executioner, and so on, and you're rooting out heretics and what have you. It's got a lot of the original Witcher going on, which I quite like. I did really like the original Witcher. And it's got a fair amount of, eldritch things and demons and devils and that sort of thing. Because I'm sure Jeebus taking over the world, I'm sure his daddy was not particularly pleased about that. And maybe there's devils and demons subjected to people or something like that. Anyway, it's based off what is, I think, a satirical book that goes with the same general idea of you being the Inquisitor of God King Jesus. I don't think it's meant to be taken seriously. I think it's meant to be a joke story. Anyway, we'll see how it turns out. I played a little bit of the demo. I don't think the Steam Deck was really capable of showing it off that well, but I don't expect it will be an extremely well-polished game or anything like that. This is also a debut title from the developer, so this is their first game. We'll see how it turns out for them. Then next up, coming out the day before Valentine's Day, Palentine's Day, Galentine's Day, whatever you want to call it, is Banishers, Ghost of New Eden, that has gigantic art for some reason. The rest of them have very small art, and this has enormous art. Alright, anyway, that looks good enough. Let's leave it there. I think there's a way to restrict OBS elements so that they don't get any bigger than something, but I don't know how to do it. Anyway, Banishers Ghost of New Eden is from Don't Nod. This is the team that worked, specifically this is the team that worked on Vampire Huge. I don't know why it was only big because Inquisitors was so small. Inquisitor's art style or cover art was so small that I had to expand it, and then everything you add to it after that is also expanded by the same amount. So ridiculous. Anyway, this is from the team who worked on Vampire or Vampire, which we played on the channel last year. We did a full Let's Play of it. I quite liked it, even if it was very janky in some places and not so fun in other places. OBS is annoying to do these things live, absolutely. Doing this offline would have been much easier. Doing it live is a pain in the balls. But whatever, fuck it. We're doing it live. Anyway, Banishers, you play two exorcists who've been sent to the New World, New Eden, United States of America, to banish ghosts and what have you, people who refuse to pass on. In the process, your partner / lover is killed, but they don't pass on. They don't go to the New World. Why does this trailer look weirdly skewed? I don't know, it looks weirdly skewed to me. Anyway, I'm going to leave it alone. Yeah, they don't pass on, and then you have this weird, philosophical thing, and that you're supposed to be someone who banishes ghosts, but then you don't do it that way. long man. I don't know why the trailer is so weird looking. It's like missing the top half of it. Anyway, the combat looks interesting enough. Vampire's combat had something going for it, but I think it just needed a bit more polish, so hopefully they've had a bit of time with it now that they've gotten some of that polish going. Can't say I'm really all there for the story. This particular period in US history has always been, to me, super boring. I have no interest in it whatsoever. But I'm here for weird combat and weird game setups and stuff like that. Anyway, moving on. Number 8, coming out on the 20th of February, will be another giant piece of art, probably. No, stayed the same size? Oh, wow, incredible. So this is the Thaumaturge. Hang on, I just want to check. I can't check it from here. Let me check its transform and see what's going on with it. 1920 1080 should be fine. Anyway, there's something weird with that trailer. Hopefully the Thaumaturge one is alright. Anyway, the Thaumaturge is by a Polish studio called Fool's Theory. This is their debut game. Thaumaturge is going to be an isometric, somewhat tactical thing, but it also has a little bit of investigative work and stuff like that. Did have a little bit of Disco Elysium to it, but it's good. I mean, nothing is going to be as good as Disco Elysium, but it does have a little bit of... So you do have these kind of creatures that follow you around. They're sort of like bound to you, and they have their own sort of vices and virtues that they target, and that helps you not interrogate people, but question people and do detecting things. That you can like attack somebody's pride or attack somebody's vanity or their wrath or their greed or something like that. Not a lot of gameplay in that trailer. Should probably pick them better. I have played the demo of this, and I did quite like it. I do like its combat system. Again, it does have you do have your partner demon, and they change like what kind of abilities you have. Yeah, I'm interested to see more because I don't know a whole lot about Polish folklore. Just what I've gotten from The Witcher, which I'm sure isn't, an exhaustive thing about it. So I would be interested to see more from this. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. All right, next up is... So I tried my best to keep remakes and re-releases and remasters and stuff like that off these lists. There's one or two that I will be making an exception for, and when we get to them, I'll talk about it. This is one of them. So Slave Zero X is a side-scrolling beat-em-up kind of thing. Very old. I think it's the SNES era. And this is kind of being relaunched, remade by a new team that doesn't really have anything to do with the original. They're called Poppy Works. Slave Zero X is slated to be on pretty much everything. What I like about it is that it's this very close-up, very big, chunky sprites that you very rarely see anymore. Anytime you see sprite work or sprite art nowadays, it's usually very small, kind of pixel art stuff. You very rarely get to see these kind of big, chunky sprites. The only time you would ever typically see it now, maybe you would see it in throwback fighting games. Very rarely you'd see it in a beat-em-up style thing. So this reminds me a hell of a lot of Strider. Slave Zero was kind of a Strider alike, but it was also way harder and way gorier, as you can see. So I'm definitely here for the art style of it, and I'm also kind of intrigued on... There's a couple of points where you see it kind of drops into 3D every now and then, and I'm kind of curious what that's about. But we'll see how it turns out. We'll see just how difficult it is and how quickly I rage quit from it. Anyway, all right, number 10. We're into double digits. Coming out literally the very next day, the 22nd of February, is Pacific Drive. So Pacific Drive, you've probably seen a couple of trailers or maybe some articles about it because it's been intriguing for some people, at least, myself included. So Pacific Drive is a driving roguelike, if you like. The general gist of it is there's this peninsula somewhere in the northeast, I think it's northwest US, that has been cut off from the rest of the country because of weird shenanigans going on. Weird supernatural shit is going on out there. The people who are in there have effectively just been left to their own devices. It's just, yep, you're on your own. Good luck. And your character has broken in to sort of... Sorry, this is... for 11. Your character has broken in to sort of figure out what's going on in a kind of journalism sort of way and detail what's going on in the area. And as you get in, you find you actually can't get out anymore, so you kind of need to help with what's going on. And generally, this involves you driving around, collecting things, piecing together the story and stuff like that. And on the way, you're attacked by various phenomena, various supernatural things, and your car gets fucked up, and you need to stop and repair your car, or your car gets destroyed entirely, and you need to restart everything. Along the way, you'll collect like scrap metal, armor pieces, that sort of stuff to sort of soup up your car and have it last a bit longer, and you get further into the area before you have to return and that kind of thing. So the general idea from the developer was that we want you to think of the car as your supporting character. It's like you're going to be spending a lot of time with the car, you're going to be changing it a lot, you're going to be seeing it go through damage, you're going to have to repair it and all that stuff. So from that standpoint, I can kind of see what they're going for. I am not good at driving games, though, so we'll see how well this turns out. I would love to see this get a VR port, because it seems like it's perfect for a VR port. hopefully that will happen, but we'll see later on down the line. Pacific Drive is currently set to be exclusive to PlayStation 5 and PC. This is also a debut title from Ironwood Studios, so this will be their very first game. Okay, release number 12. I remember the driving in a way out. Yes, let's... I'm trying to forget the driving in a way. God, I was so bad. I'm not even usually that bad, but I was very bad that time. That's what happens when I'm streaming it. Alright, so Square Enix, taking advantage of the fact that next year is a leap year, they're deciding to release their next game on the 29th of February. Doesn't come up very often. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has the smallest art. Like so small I can't even reach it. Why on earth is this art so small? Alright, remind me to shrink this before we change to the next one. Oh, it must be a WebP. That's probably why it's so small. Oh, I have these numbers wrong. I was right the first time. Sorry. I'm reading these numbers off a spreadsheet, and I forget that the first row is... This is squint to read it. I'm forgetting that the first row is titles and stuff. So I need to subtract one where I read it. Anyway, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We're not going to be talking a whole lot about this because I don't want to know anything. This is the second entry, entry into the Final Fantasy VII Remake project. Final Fantasy VII was such a huge game that they have to split the remake over multiple games to make it work properly. So if you're familiar with, chances are if you're familiar with this, you already know exactly what I'm going to tell you, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the part of the game in the original where you leave the city and you suddenly realize it's a big open world game. It wasn't all just, the game didn't all take place just inside the city. You go off into the big world map and you can go to hundreds of different places. And it really, really opens up. That's scary. Thinking about it in with modern technology, with modern consoles, modern PCs, and so on. This is going to be insane. And I am frantically trying to catch up. So currently on the channel, we are going through the Final Fantasy series. I've started all the way at Final Fantasy 1. I've never played anything before Final Fantasy 7. So 7 was the first Final Fantasy I played, and I've played all of them since. But I'd never played anything before that. So we're working our way from 1 up to 6 at least, and then we'll play 7 original, and then finally I will start playing the remakes. But yeah, it's going to take me a minute to get there. But I don't want to know anything about this because they are changing the story somewhat. They're doing a split timeline thing and a bunch of other stuff. So I'd rather not know anything about it until we get to it. Anyway, moving on to the next one before I see too much. So the real number 12 this time. Not like that fake number 12 that almost got me fired. Moving on to the next month as well. So we're moving into the 8th of March for our next game. And it's going to be a game with a very, very silly title. And you forgot to tell me to shrink that game art before I got here. So here we are. Okay, the 8th of March for Unicorn Overlord. I did tell you it had a very silly name. Here we are. Okay, so Unicorn Overlord is the next thing from VanillaWorks. VanillaWorks? Is it VanillaWorks or Vanillaware? It's Vanillaware. VanillaWorks is something else. I also meant to mention Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is exclusive to PS5, so there won't be a PS4 version. Alright, anyway. Unicorn Overlord is coming out on everything except PC, actually, which is an interesting one. So this is from Vanillaware. The last thing Vanillaware made was 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, which we are going to play next year on the channel. It's in my list. And it would definitely go. It was on my list last year, and this year, rather. It's like 2023. And I didn't get to it, so I'm definitely going to get to it this year. 13 Sentinels is an excellent visual novel game. That I won't talk about too much because I want everybody to go in blind to the Let's Play. Unicorn Overlord is the same very lush art style, fantastic sprite work, like Slave Zero X, but even better. Vanillaware are top of the list when it comes to sprite work right now. And if the writing is as good as it is in Aegis Rim, then we're in for a really good story, really good plot. And the combat looks kind of Fire Emblem-y a little bit. It reminds me a little bit of Fire Emblem anyway. So yeah, we'll see how this turns out. Hopefully it'll be a good one. This is slated for the 8th of March. Then we have number 13. Unlucky for some, possibly unlucky for this next developer as well, as they have definitely not worked on anything like this game before. So this will be Outcast: A New Beginning. So Outcast is technically a sequel. To the original Outcast. So this is technically Outcast 2. Get the trailer up now in a second. So technically this is Outcast 2, and I think originally it was called Outcast 2: A New Beginning. But they've since dropped the sequel because they're going for a sort of reboot, remake type thing, or reboot of it at least. And this is from Appeal Studios, and the game will be out on PC and current gen, so that's PS5, Xbox Series. The last game this studio made, though, was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for mobile. So they've got a whole lot of console learnings to do, basically. So this will be intriguing to see how it turns out, because they're definitely, swinging here. They're being very ambitious with their first attempt at a proper big console game. I'm wondering now, does this trailer actually get to gameplay, or is it all pre-rendered stuff? Just gonna skip ahead a little bit. Yeah, it looks like this trailer's all pre-rendered. Okay, anyway. What I am interested in is jetpack combat, because any game that has ever implemented it has either been extremely boring or really clunky and frustrating to play with. You can think like Dark Void had jetpack combat. It was exclusively jetpack combat, and it was just a pain in the hole to do anything with it. Because enemies would just fly straight past you, and you'd have to turn around to try to shoot them, and then by the time you turned around, they fly past you again, and you're like, ah, this is so frustrating. So, yeah, I just want to see how they handle that. I played a game last year, called Chorus, which was a space dogfighting game, and that really handled that frustration really well, because almost any flying, like dogfighting type game that I've played, that's always been a huge frustration, is that enemies just whiz straight past you and you have to turn around to shoot them, and by the time you've turned around, they go past you again. Can you tell I don't like flight combat? But Chorus fixed that really well, because it had a really quick just don't think too hard about how the technology works thing, where your ship just teleported directly behind enemies. Right. It made things much easier. Anyway. Alright, next up, number 14. Again, is sort of a reboot, I guess, a series reboot. So some of these, as I said, I've tried to keep remakes and remasters and so on off the list as much as possible. But some of them are interesting enough that I think they warrant being talked about. So, I have Alone in the Dark, which has had a number of reboots over the years. It was rebooted in the PS3 era, and it didn't really go anywhere because I guess nobody really liked the game. I liked it, actually. I would certainly admit it had its problems, but I did like it. It's a shame it never went anywhere. Anyway, this new Alone in the Dark has been delayed multiple times. The first time it was delayed, it was to try to avoid it coming out the same time as a bunch of really, really popular games, like Alan Wake, for instance, which it has somewhat direct comparisons with, as it was going to be an over-the-shoulder survival horror type thing. So it's given itself enough space now that anyone who's really dying to play Alan Wake 2 has played it at this point. And they have enough room between the two games that, they can start playing Alone in the Dark instead. So this is from... Who's the developer behind them? Oh yeah, this is what... Okay, so the developer's name is Pieces. And I cannot see what else they've worked on. I did go looking around to see what else they've worked on. The game looks too polished for this to be their first game. And also, I don't think they would be trusted with this IP. Not that Alone in the Dark is this illustrious IP exactly, but they must have worked on something else, or the team must be made up of veterans or something like that. Anyway, we'll see how it turns out. There is a demo available for it, but the demo really doesn't get you into the game at all. You play as this young girl character, and you just sort of walk about the area. Not really a whole lot going on. You don't get into how the combat's going to play out or how puzzles are going to play out or anything like that. So I honestly don't know what the purpose of the demo was. Anyway, we'll see how it comes out on the 20th. So next up, number 15. And this is the day where I need to get paid in advance. My boss is watching. You need to pay me in advance on this day because 3 really big games are all coming out all in the one day. First up, this is in no particular order. Everything is alphabetical. So Dragon's Dogma 2 is coming out first on the 22nd of March 2024. So Dragon's Dogma 2 is billed as a sequel to the original Dragon's Dogma. The original came out on the tail end of the PS3, and it is in a lot of ways it's like Japan's attempt to do like a big Western RPG, or Capcom. Sorry, not Japan's attempt. Obviously, Japan's attempt was Demon Souls, and they did a good job. This is more Capcom's attempt to do a big Western RPG. You play the Arisen. At the beginning of the game, your heart is torn out by a dragon, and the dragon eats it. And there's this sort of ritualistic thing where you're now bound to the dragon's lifespan, which means you're effectively immortal. There's this one dragon. But the thing is, when the dragon appears, he wreaks havoc on the land, monsters return, such and such, and you need to kill the dragon, but obviously killing the dragon means you kill yourself. Problems. And then there's like some existential questions near the end of the game where you have to decide, are you going to sacrifice yourself? Are you going to sacrifice somebody else to the dragon? And you keep the dragon's powers and the dragon goes away, but you have to kill the woman you love or the man you love or whatever it is. All sorts of different questions you can go through. And then there's a really crazy dungeon crawling thing right at the end. Anyway, what I'm saying is the original game is amazing, but also extremely frustrating to play, especially if you go back to it now. Played at the time, we didn't really have the niceties of things like lock-on, like character classes specifically, over-the-shoulder shooting, all that kind of stuff for archery. Like, they should have had it. I mean, it's Capcom. Resident Evil was right there. But for whatever reason, it didn't work that way. From what we're seeing in Dragon's Dogma 2, they seem to sort of fixed it, but it also doesn't seem like there's lock-on still. Just give me lock-on, please. You're giving me a third-person melee-based game. I need to be able to lock onto enemies, otherwise what's the point? Anyway, Dragon's Dogma 2, despite it being a sequel, it does very much seem like it is a rehash of the original. There's a lot of very similar story motifs. Now, at the same time, the dragon returning and creating an Arisen and so on, at least within the fiction of Dragon's Dogma, it seemed like it was a cyclical thing anyway. So you might expect that even though the story seems very similar, it's like it's supposed to be similar. And no, that's not the One Ring. I know that looked like it was the One Ring, but it's not the One Ring. It's legally distinct, the Ring of Power. All right, anyway, that's one of the games coming out on the 22nd. The other game coming out on the 22nd of March, number 16. And again, this is in alphabetical order. Is Princess Peach Showtime. A huge tone change from the last game we just watched. So, Princess Peach Showtime, as you might imagine, since it's Princess Peach, it's going to be a Nintendo Switch exclusive. Dragon's Dogma 2 will be exclusive to current gen systems and PC. Princess Peach Showtime, it kind of feels like... So there was like an original Super Princess Peach game that was somewhat a side-scrolling Mario game, but you played Peach. Was Mario was missing? Is that also Peach or was that Luigi? I think Luigi. I think you played Luigi in that. Anyway, in this game, when is my Daisy Showtime? If you don't look too hard at Princess Peach, you can pretend she's Daisy. Just, you know, get a Sharpie on... Don't do this. Get a Sharpie, put it on your Switch and draw over it. And you can pretend it's her instead. Peach goes to the theater and she's there to like watch some new shows, and the theater's taken over by somebody else who wants to do their own shows. Don't do the blonde hair. You'll have to scrub really hard with the Sharpie to get rid of it. And Peach obviously wants to help out, being Princess Peach and all, and she gets different costumes to play different parts and sort of fix up the theater and that kind of thing. So the general gist is you're going to be playing a bunch of different levels that all have their own gimmick. You know, one you're a sword fighter, there's another one where you're a chef, there's another one where you're a kung fu master, and a bunch of other stuff. There's a bunch of other costumes they haven't revealed. This one's a detective one, which would be interesting because they'll all have different gameplay styles. There might even be some levels where you have to mix and match. We'll see how that plays out. 22nd of March for that one. And then the third game coming out on the 22nd of March. Because why? Why are they all coming out all in the one day? You know why. It's called The End of the First Quarter. Anyone who has shareholders wants all their games coming out at the end of the first quarter to make their numbers look good. Anyway, Rise of the Ronin is probably going to be the first... I was going to say it's going to be the first Sony game that year, but it won't be. Helldivers 2 will be the first one. Okay, so PlayStation Studios is attached to this. As far as I am aware, they're not attached to develop it. They're only attached to publish it. So this isn't a first-party game. Koei Tecmo are not a first-party PlayStation developer. But since Sony are partnering with distribution and publishing, that means Rise of the Ronin will be PlayStation exclusive, specifically PlayStation 5. So Team Ninja of Koei Tecmo most recently have worked on Wo Long, Fallen Dynasty, which is like Neo set in China instead, and Neo was Dark Souls, but set in Japan. So this is Dark Souls, but set in China, I guess. Anyway, Rise of the Ronin looks like it's going to be like a more palatable Neo, or a more beginner-friendly Neo, we'll say. So Neo played like Dark Souls. It was very hard, very punishing, and if you made a mistake, you know, you're pretty much dead immediately. Whereas this seems like it might be a bit nicer to people. I guess we'll find out. That powerbomb didn't look very nice, but anyway. I am seeing a lot of animation reuse from Neo and stuff like that, so I can't imagine it will... Like, they definitely haven't changed engine or anything like that. It's still very much the Neo Wo Long engine. The Stranger of Paradise engine, because they did work on that as well. Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I really like Neo. I played a little bit of the beta of Wo Long, and I quite liked that. And Stranger of Paradise I quite liked as well, so... It seems like a no-brainer that I'll probably like Rise of the Ronin while we're at it. Also, don't give that samurai a gun. This is bad. This is bad news. Okay, anyway. Moving on. Number 18. It's no longer the 22nd of March. Okay, so the rest of the games that we're going to be talking about, at least for now, I'll mention it when we get there, but the rest of these games are effectively Q1 of 2024. So they'll be out before the end of March, essentially. So they could be January, could be February, could be March. We don't know. It's going to be at some point before the end of the first quarter, anyway. So Lightyear Frontier. Again, we're taking a bit of a tone shift away from Rise of the Ronin and Dragon's Dogma and so on. Lightyear Frontier is, if I want to be very reductive about it, it is Stardew Valley in a mech. So you're a farmer guy. You're on alien planet. You can't breathe the atmosphere there, but and why you decided to live here, I don't know. But whatever. And you do farming things and mining things and stuff like that. But you do all of it in a big mech suit. Again, another one that's probably perfect for VR since you're sitting in a mech suit, which means you can move, but still sit down. You know, you still have that conceit for VR. That kind of how it works. Why driving games kind of work well in VR, because you're used to the situation where you're driving and you're moving technically, but you're also sitting down. Like, it works. It tricks the brain really well. Whereas if you have to move as a person in VR, but you know you're still sitting down or you're still standing in the same spot, your brain goes, huh? What's going on? Anyway, I think it works out pretty well. I thought that trailer had gameplay in it, but it doesn't. But yeah, it's a farming sim, mining sim, slice of life type thing, but you're in a big mech suit. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of being in a big mech suit, to be honest. And the farming, cozy, relaxing, fun time game is good to have. It's good to have one to go back to, or to drop into when you just wanna play a little bit, but you don't really want to put too much effort in, and you don't want to think about anything, and you know, just have a fun time. Anyway, that's Lightyear Frontier. Still sticking with Q1. You have a game called Locomotive. So I've played. Get a bit bigger. So I played a bit of the demo of Locomotive, but I've also been following it on Twitter and various other social media things, and I'm getting some really serious Monkey Island vibes from it. Monkey Island, Grim Fandango, and not so much Grim Fandango, mostly Monkey Island. So the idea with the Locomotive, or Locomotive, the game, is Murder on the Orient Express, effectively. You're playing 3 different people. You're playing the deceased's lawyer, then you're playing one of the butlers, the waiters or something, and then I think the woman is an investigative journalist, something like that. And the kind of gist of the story is to try to figure out, you know, who done it and that kind of thing. But it is played, you know, for laughs. There's a lot of comedic timing and stuff like that, and it has a lot of the Monkey Island vibe to it. So I do quite like what I've seen of it so far. The demo that is currently available, I think you only play as the first character up to a little bit past the murder. Anyway, we'll see how the whole game plays out at some stage in the first quarter of 2024. Moving on, number 20. Getting there. We're quarter of the way done now, something like that. Anyway, right, number 20, No Rest for the Wicked. This was shown off very recently during the most recent Game Awards, the end of 2023. No Rest for the Wicked is going to be available on all current gen stuff. And this is by Moon Studios. Moon Studios, you would probably know better for the 2 Ori games, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Ori and the Wild Forest, that thing. This is a bit of a change for them. So No Rest for the Wicked is kind of court intrigue thing, but it's also an isometric hack and slash thing, so sort of like Diablo. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot of gameplay in this trailer. I'll try and skip ahead now, see if there's any actual gameplay in it. But I am very intrigued by the art direction, and the kind of monster designs are excellent as well. And you can get a little bit of gist of how the gameplay works, maybe not too much. It's very grand. They're definitely going for like big medieval dark fantasy, you know, settings and set pieces and stuff like that. So I'll be very curious to see how it plays out. And they're also, you know, stepping out of their comfort zone. They could easily have done an Ori 3, and I don't think anybody would have, you know, bat an eye. And there's certainly Ori fans who'd be like, yes, another Ori game, amazing. But they're trying something else, and I'm here for it. We'll see how it works out for them. Next up, number 21 is Penny's Big Breakaway. again, we're going for a pretty major tone shift once more. This is what happens when I do things in alphabetical order. Anyway, Penny's Big Breakaway. Is it exclusive to Switch? No, it's not. It's going to be on It's going to be on current gen and Switch and PC. So not PS4 and Xbox Series, but pretty much everything else. This is a debut title from a developer called Evening Star. Penny's Big Breakaway. Penny's Big Breakaway. That's difficult for me to say, it seems. You are Penny. You have a yo-yo. The yo-yo is used to do physics nonsense. You can like throw it and then drag yourself towards the end of the yo-yo, or wrap it around people and pull them towards you, or jump on top of the yo-yo and roll around with it. There's all sorts of really weird, really cool traversal stuff going on in the trailers, in some of the gameplay shots that I've seen. I don't think there's a demo available for it yet. I would be really interested to try it out. It just looks really fun. Like really, really fun, and it's something I haven't really seen before. Like I don't think I've seen a platformer. It's almost like an old school platformer game. But it's really leaning into its one gimmick and just going nuts with it. And I really hope it plays as well as it looks like it plays. Anyway, that's Penny's Big Breakaway. I can't say it. I can't say the name right. Penny Big Break. I get a lisp anytime I try to fucking say this thing. All right. Next, number 22. We're still Q1 2024. And again, we're going for another major shift in tone. This is a game called Post Trauma. So Post Trauma was shown off at the Future Game Show last year, I think. And apparently this is not... it must be letterboxed or something like that. Anyway. I was shown off at the Game Awards. Something. I knew it was shown off at something. Anyway. Post Trauma has a pretty strong Resi Silent Hill vibe to it. And that's mostly what I'm here for. I shift this down a bit. Anyway. Yeah, it's got a really good, like... you know, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, old school survival horror element to it, but it's got a lot of really trippy designs and environments and that kind of thing. That just looks really interesting. And it's got a really high fidelity for what I believe is a solo dev. So it's really impressive. This is going to be developed by a company called Red Soul Games, which I think is like 5 people. But as far as I know, it's a very small game. Coming to PC and console, and when they say console, they mean current gen, so PS5, Xbox, and so on. We don't know a whole lot about Post Trauma, other than it looks really interesting, and that's kind of it. But hopefully it turns out really well for them. Okay, let me put this back, because when we change trailer, it's going to look really shit. Okay, so we're moving out of Q1, and we're moving into Q2. So Q2 means April. So this next game, 23rd April 2024. And this is a Kickstarter project that, disclosure, I have kickstarted. So I'm hoping this turns out well, because otherwise, well, it's not like I haven't bought games that didn't turn out well. Just go look at the tier list and you'll see I've bought some stinkers over the years. Anyway. Right. Aiden Chronicles 100 Heroes. So this will be out 23rd of April and is coming to everything. This is developed by Rabbit and Bear Studios. The last game Rabbit and Bear Studios made was the other Aiden Chronicles tie-in game that was also a Kickstarter. It was actually a stretch goal for this Kickstarter. It was a prequel game starring the ancestors of some of the main characters in this, which I felt was decent for what it was. You know, it's a tie-in, almost promotional type game, and I enjoyed it. But like a lot of games that I enjoy, I end up trying to platinum them, and then I end up getting really frustrated with them because I spent so much time trying to platinum them. Anyway, I enjoyed it. 100 Heroes is effectively a Suikoden Spiritual Successor. If you've never played Suikoden, it's a JRPG series where you amass a party of hundreds of characters. And a lot of the time, those characters are largely interchangeable, but then there's like a core team of 40 or 50 characters that are, unique. I think with 100 Heroes, they're going for like 100 of those unique characters, and then that's it. I don't think they're going for like the 1,000 party members or something you got in Suikoden 3. But yeah, more of that, please, because it's interesting. I kind of want to play these JRPGs that just have huge parties. Just to see how they play out, because they feel a bit more like Dungeons and Dragons, to be honest, and that's, I guess, where I'm coming from it. Anyway, moving on. So same day, different game. So number 25. This again was shown off very recently at the most recent Game Awards. So this is Tales of Kanzera, Zao. This was, as I said, shown off at the most recent Game Awards, and it looks interesting from a combat side of things. Like, it looks very fast paced and very fluid, which I quite like in my combat games. It's also a side-scrolling Metroidvania type thing, which again I also quite like. So looking forward to see how this turns out. And it is leaning into what seems to be African folklore, which I have very little knowledge of. So I'd like to see how much of it is, based off real world folklore and how much of it is made up for the game and so on. But I do like the kind of traversal stuff they're going for. It does look very fast-paced, platforming and combat and that kind of thing. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. 23rd of April for that one. Okay, next up, number 26. Very slowly getting there. Right, moving on. It's not the 23rd of April anymore. It is now... Oh, night. Actually, it's Q2. Didn't even get any games for May or June. It's just Q2. So, Blade Chimera. Blade Chimera, I think it was the Game Awards, or was it one of the Switch Directs? I'm not sure. No, it was the Game Awards. It was shown off at like the pre-show or something like that. One of the interesting things I do like, again, it's another side-scrolly Castlevania Metroid type thing, which I love. I know. I know I bring those games up a lot, but I really like them. Anyway, kind of interesting is, one, there's ranged combat, there's melee combat, so your character has a gun. They also have a sword, but then they also have this other kind of floating thing on their back that I believe it helps in traversal. I'm not sure if it does help in combat as well, okay. But it has some kind of time shifting mechanic. And from what we've seen so far, you're using it to like rebuild platforms and that kind of thing. But I imagine like it has further uses the further into the game it gets. And I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. So Blade Chimera is currently slated for, as I said, Q2, 2024, and is currently PC and Switch. For now, at least. No, I think I skipped a number again. Did I skip a game? I might have. Anyway, this next one is 26. Also Q2 2024. This is a puzzle game, but it's based on... Where are you? I hope I didn't skip a game. I might have. Okay, so Botany Manor. So Botany Manor is a puzzle game based in this manor, as you might imagine, that's been left to you by a family member who was, big into plants and that kind of thing. And your job is to revitalize their garden, kind of explore the whole area, explore the house, and bring it back to its former glory and that kind of thing. And you do that by growing plants. And certain plants can only be grown in certain areas. They require certain environments. The soil has to be a certain pH level and all that stuff. So that's kind of the puzzle mechanic, is you sort of trying to figure out all of that kind of stuff, finding out what room needs what plant and that kind of thing. Kind of find it interesting because I'm not, like, personally, I'm not super into green thumbs, gardening, and what have you. I'm very, very much concrete slabs everywhere kind of guy. But there is something interesting about the kind of technical aspect to it. Soil types and how much sun it gets and how much water it gets and the type of water and minerals it's allowed to have and its tolerances for different things. Now, there's some interesting things here. Now, there's also a lot of these plants are fictional. Like this one only grows when you take a picture of it or something like that, or it only grows when it's subjected to extremely bright light, like from a lightning bolt or something. And you get around that by using the flash. A game from Elwan. Possibly. See, you managed to keep even plants that want to die. Somehow you managed to keep them alive. So I don't know. We'll have to put this game on mega hard mode for you instead. But yeah, but again, it's also a puzzle game, first-person puzzle game, which I quite like. So we'll see how it plays out. Okay, the real 27. I like that fake 27. Again, are we still in quarter 3? We're still in quarter 3. So this is Fantasy Life, The Girl Who Steals Time. A pretty lofty title. Don't do well with some flowered plants. Okay, so we put it up to mega hard for like succulents and carnivorous plants, but like an orchid, not an orchid. Okay. All right. Fantasy Life: The Girl Who Steals Time is another slice of life thing. So Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, that type of thing. I know those games aren't exactly the same, but you know what I mean. You dropped into a village, you're revitalizing the village, you're getting people to come here, but you're also, building houses for them and stuff like that, but then you're also doing farming, crops, and go on adventures and meet people and do mini games and stuff like that. I think the whole aspect of The Girl Who Steals Time is that you do some kind of time traveling to bring other people to your village or something like that, to bring them back into the past to make it better so that their future is better or something like that. But again, it's a cozy, fun time thing, in between bouts of, demon souls and hard mode runs on something or whatever. You can drop back into something a bit more casual. As you see, 2023, it did not happen. So it's going to be next year instead. And I think it is I think it's a Switch exclusive. Yes, currently it's a Switch exclusive. From Level 5 Concept. Level 5 Concept are the people who work on, most recently, Ni no Kuni 2. So they've been working on this since then. Alright, next up, 28. Still in. Yeah, okay, this is the last one for quarter 2. And this is a game that was shown off at this year's Summer Games Fest, I think. This is Haunty. Haunty with 2 eyes. Haunty is what looks to be a twin-stick shooter. But it has a really nice, this kind of monochrome art style to it. It's kind of got a gothic vibe. It's not quite Tim Burton levels of things. It's like if, I don't know, because Tim Burton would never have straight lines on anything. That's just the thing. But it's going for like this kind of goth horror, creepy vibe to it. But it's also got this kind of twin stick shooter thing going on as well. Again, we don't know a whole lot about the game or what the gist of the storyline is or anything like that. But I think the general idea is you're trying to beat back darkened areas of the forest with your whatever it is you're shooting. And you use that to make areas in the land that you can then stand on to get further into the darker areas to attack things and that sort of thing. So it's got a little bit of, you know, like Splatoon kind of thing where you have to make your own platform or make your own area that you can then dive into as a squid and then jump out and then shoot people and then dive in again and jump out and shoot and so on. So I think it does have that element to it. But again, we don't know a whole lot about the game. The small amount that was shown off, we haven't heard anything since. But as it says there, coming 2024, and as most recent updates from the game's developers, it's sometime before June. It's developed by Moonloop Games, and from what I can tell, this is their first game. And it will be, for now at least, a PC exclusive. Okay. So we're moving out of the second half of the year, and we're now moving into... Sorry, moving out of the first half of the year, rather, and we're moving into the second half of the year. So coming on the 20th of... Not how I'm doing it. Coming on the 20th of August? Is 8 August? Yes. So 20th of the 8th month is August. Okay. I always have to count. Anyway... Black Myth Wukong. Again, another game that was announced probably way too early because it feels like it's been coming out for years. I've done the numbers wrong again. This is 29, not 30. Anyway, I should have put the number in instead of relying on the Excel row number. Anyway, Black Myth Wukong is effectively... a Souls-like type thing. So you're playing the Monkey King. This is largely based off of the Odyssey to the West story that a lot of games and films and books and so on have also been based off. Dragon Ball, at least the very original Dragon Ball series, is loosely based off Odyssey to the West, Journey to the West. Odyssey to the West, the game, is also based off of it, and so on. But generally... You're this chosen savior, the Monkey King, meant to, you know, bring harmony and peace to the land by battling all these creatures. Again, I'm here for a lot of it. I'm here for just monster design, environment design, just art direction in general. It just looks amazing. But the combat does look really good as well. So I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. Alright, we see a little bit of gameplay here. Of course, why did I have to skip to the part with the horrible spider in it? Anyway, it's Soulsy, but it also feels like it's a bit more faster paced, but not Bloodborne levels of faster paced, so maybe something a bit more manageable. The camera is a lot further out, so you do have a lot more movement available to you, or a lot more visibility of the environment. You know, the Soulsy types do feel somewhat more claustrophobic a lot of the time. Now, a lot of the camera being pulled out might just have to do with enemies just being enormous. That might just be a concession they had to make. Anyway, August 20th for the Black Myth Wukong. Okay, the real number 30 this time. This will be the 9th of September. This is another game that was supposed to come out this year, but was delayed for whatever reason. The reason was not given. But it's Warhammer Space... Well, I mean, the usual reason was given, which was, oh, we just want more time to work on it, etc. And not that we just didn't want to release it at the same time a bunch of other enormous games were coming out. Anyway... So Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, the sequel to Space Marine. The original Space Marine came out... Is it a PS2 game? Or is it a PS3 game, maybe? I'm going to say PS3, but I'm actually not sure. It might be a PS2 title. Anyway, been a while. Let's put it that way. I'm finding interesting here, now I think this trailer is entirely CG. There have been other trailers that are show a bit more of the combat. You are playing the Space Marine. You know, if you've ever seen Warhammer setup, it's the guys. Jesus, scared the shit out of me. Thank you for the follow.
Hello there.
Hello there. How you getting on, Rich Ellie? Thank you very much. You too. So Warhammer Space Marine 2 is being set up to kind of showcase the and posture check. Okay, I hydrate as best I can. Probably not going to get much out of it. I think there was a little bit left in that can. Anyway, the Space Marine 2 game is kind of being shown off to show off. Sorry about that one. It scared the shit out of me too. I forgot I added that sound. So they're showing off the horde mode. Not a horde mode, but the fact that they can now render tons of enemies at once. And the Warhammer stuff has always been, at least these kind of particular enemies that they're fighting, are always been just hundreds of them. The reason that they can win ever is because of just how many there are. And the idea with the Space Marines or the Ultramarines is that they only ever need one guy. Well, at least you didn't have headphones on like I did. I might have to remove that sound effect. It's a bit too loud. Yeah, the idea is you're one guy just wading into hundreds of enemies at once. And you know, there's no cover shooting, there's no backing down and so on. The Space Marines are just always forward, no retreat kind of thing. Like, it's very macho, you know, war guys, but that's Warhammer. That's their whole thing. It's, you know, as long as you just go with it, it's fine. Anyway, okay, next up. Is this the real 31? Yes. Okay, now we're coming into the end of quarter 3. So all of these games for the next while will be some stage before the end of September. Okay, so Baby Steps was shown off at, I think, the last Summer Games Fest this year. Anyway, Baby Steps is from the same... So this is actually kind of interesting. It's like a collaborative effort from a bunch of other indie developers. So there's a developer behind Ape Out, and the developer behind... This is a big booty. It's the developer behind Get Over It. Have kind of teamed up, and there's another developer, but I'm not sure. This might be just their first game. But there's another developer working on it for Baby Steps. And the idea with Baby Steps is this person is, you know, extremely on the nose, basement dweller, doesn't go anywhere, never leaves the house, and so on. So his muscles don't really work anymore, right? So it's been so long that he's ever had to walk. He's forgotten how to walk. And now you need to help him get back to his home, effectively. Been transported somewhere, and you need to help them get back. So you have full analog control of their feet. So the idea is you move their feet independently with the analog sticks to sort of get them to just walk forward, but then also climb steps and walk across bridges and that kind of thing, climb up hills, what have you. This seems like prime stream fodder. How fun this will actually be to play normally. I'm not sure it will be, but playing it on stream would be pretty funny. If you've ever played Flash game QWOP, where you would control the ankles and knees of a long jumper, I think was the idea, or were they just a sprinter? I'm not sure. But you would use the keys K, W, O, and P on your keyboard to independently move knees and ankles of this one person, and you try to get them to run. it never worked. It's meant to be incredibly difficult. But that's kind of, I think, what they're going for here with Baby Steps as well, is that it's meant to be dumb and slapstick and probably going to be extremely frustrating to play. But maybe on stream it won't be too bad. Okay, that's Baby Steps. And we have, again, Quarter 3. And again, I did say I'd be keeping re-releases, remakes, and so on off the board, but some of them I've left on just because I want to talk about them a little bit, and also because I think they're worth pointing out for different reasons. So, the Lollipop Chainsaw. So the reason this trailer is so small is because this is the trailer for the original game. Because we don't have a trailer for the remake, remaster, whatever this is going to be. So Lollipop Chainsaw, despite it being very pervy right now in the trailer, is a zombie killer thing that's set in a high school at some stage in the 70s, 80s, something like that. Juliet Starling has her bejeweled chainsaw that she takes to the zombie hordes that used to be her classmates and so on. It's got a bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer going on with it as well. It's written by James Gunn, who'd be... Well, before he became, Guardians of the Galaxy Marvel guy, he made a lot of, really slapstick horror films. Slither is very good, and I can't find it anywhere on any streaming platform, and it really pisses me off. But it's a very funny horror game, or horror film, rather. So this is written by James Gunn, and then creative director is Suda51, who also makes really dumb, combat video games. And I really like Lollipop Chainsaw, and it is almost impossible to play now, because it came out on PS3, Xbox 360, never got a PC port. As you might know, with the PS3, anything that was exclusive to the PS3 is pretty much unplayable now, because you would need to own a PS3, and nothing... The PS4 and PS5 aren't backwards compatible with the PS3, so that kind of locks you out of it from there. Xbox 360, so the Xbox One and the Xbox Series consoles are meant to be backwards compatible with Xbox 360, but it is up to the individual developers and publishers to make that available. And Lollipop Chainsaw was never enrolled in the backwards compatibility library, so you still can't play it that way. So the only real way to play it is to have the original 360 hardware or the PS3 hardware and the disc. That's the only way to play it now, which might explain why my Let's Play videos are consistently my most viewed is Lollipop Chainsaw. Because hardly anybody can actually play it anymore. So getting a remaster, remake, whatever it is they're going for is good, because it gets it out of that game preservation loophole or issue that it's stuck in right now, in that practically nobody can play a very fun game. And it's not that it doesn't have its issues. It can be a bit clunky and jank in some places, but it's also a very fun game that I think more people should play. Anyway, but as I said at the start, we don't have a trailer for like the remake or whatever it's going for, so I'm a little bit worried about it. Anyway, I need to shrink that again, because when I change it to the next trailer, it's going to be enormous. And 33. So we're still in quarter 3. Next game is, again, only shown off very recently. So Lost Records, Bloom and Rage was shown off at the most recent Game Awards. This is also by Don't Nod, but this is by their Life is Strange team. And I was to be honest, I was kind of dismissive of this at the beginning, because it just kind of looked like Life is Strange 4 to me, even though it wasn't called that, and I just kind of felt like, I'm not really into those games all that much. But the further the game goes in, there's some supernatural elements to it, but it seems to be a time jump or time skip ahead, where the adult versions of these characters are kind of talking about, what happened that, one summer night or whatever it was, summer evening, where a whole bunch of horrible shit seemed to happen to people, and they're sort of reliving it So it has kind of a Goonies, It, Stranger Things sort of vibe to it, bit of Oxenfree vibe to it as well. So I'm kind of once once I got that kind of vibe too, I was like, oh okay, I might play I might play this then. This seems interesting. Um, oh yeah, we'll see how that plays out. As long as it has a bit more of a scary vibe to it, rather than Life is Strange's sort of teen angst things. Like I'm too old. I'm too old for teen angst shit. I need to move on. Okay. Next up. Or 34, isn't it? Yes, it is. This was shown off last year, and I'm kind of trying to gobble up as much information as I can about it. So, Metaphor Refantasio, Fantasio, or whatever, however it's pronounced, is the next game from Atlas, or Studio Zero within Atlas, more specifically. So they're the people who would have been behind stuff like the newer Persona games, Catherine games, and stuff like that. So more of them is never really a bad thing. So instead of like Persona is kind of relying on your friends and your classmates and the kind of social connections you make during your life as a student in Japan or wherever it takes place. Metaphor Refantasio is a little bit more about kind of like political machinations in heaven kind of thing. There's some kind of election going on. They're going to elect the next head of the city, and you're vying for that position, which you need to make, the rounds as a political thing. And for some reason, that means combat. I don't know why. Apparently it does. And you make connections with these different people. They become your party members. You gain powers from becoming that, so on. So it's very Persona-y. Well, yeah, just look at that. Just look at that art. Just look at it. It's incredible. Yeah, more please. More of that. Okay, so all of those games that I've shown you are meant to come out at some point before the end of September. And every game that I'm about to show you is some point before the end of 2024. So at some point in 2024, the rest of these games are going to be coming out. So first up is a game called The Altars. This is by 11-Bit Studios. You might know better for Frostpunk, I think was the last game they worked on. The trailer real quick. Okay, so The Altars, if you've ever seen the film Moon, which is Sam Rockwell, who is meant to be sort of living on this moon base with an AI companion, slowly going insane over time. But he's waiting for somebody to replace him, only to find out that actually he just gets cloned, and the clone replaces him instead. Which is kind of, existential crises and so on. But the idea with The Altars is you're well aware of your clones, and you're sort of working together with them. But also each clone has their own distinct personality, and for some reason during the cloning process, their memory is also getting kind of messed up a little bit. So they all have their own memory of the past, and you're not entirely sure whose is correct. You're also not entirely sure which one is the original you. Have things like they call home to the wife, and like not sure which one of them is actually married to her, and so on. If she even exists, is it a figment of your imagination? Is it an implanted memory by the company, and then so on. But the general gist of the gameplay is base management. Everybody has their own thing that they're good at. The mechanic, the doctor, and so on, combat specialist guy, and what have you. And you're all there to make life a little bit easier, but also figure out a way to get out of the base. That kind of thing. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how they play it out, and the storyline kind of thing, because I don't think clones are done enough in fiction. I think a lot of the time it's usually done for horror or action or something like that. I don't think it's very rare that they go into the whole existential thing of somebody who's exactly like you and has the exact same experiences, but somehow comes out differently. It's like, why? Why are they? Why is that a thing? I just don't think it's explored enough in fiction. Anyway, next up is a game called Avowed. This is the next game from Obsidian Entertainment, and I think I was gonna say this is the first game developed since Microsoft bought them, but I have a feeling this has been in development longer than that. Okay, so Avowed kind of strikes me as an Elder Scrolls type thing, but by Obsidian instead, which wouldn't exactly be odd for Obsidian Entertainment because they have worked on Bethesda properties before. They worked on Fallout New Vegas in between Fallout 3 and 4. They made Fallout New Vegas. So they do have that element, prior. So this could be working between Skyrim and whatever the next Elder Scrolls is. Here's Avowed, which is particularly Elder Scrolls from the looks of things. First person medieval combat thing, but you use magic and you're talking to people and there's immersive sim elements to it. It does look like there's some element of a party. You could have companions who are following you. It looks like there's some base building in it as well. There's guns. Elder Scrolls did not have guns. It's kind of curious how well it works out. So the last game that Obsidian worked on is Grounded. But before that, they worked on the Outer Wilds. The Outer Worlds? Is that them? I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure if Obsidian are Outer Worlds or not. I don't know. I'd have to check that. Anyway, it does feel like this is... Bethesda's busy with Starfield, so we're going to make Elder Scrolls instead. That's where they're going with it. And if that's the case, I mean, New Vegas is, as far as I'm concerned, the best Fallout since Bethesda started making them, and Bethesda didn't even make it. And if Avowed is the best Elder Scrolls since Bethesda started making them, and Bethesda didn't even make it, I mean, yeah, maybe. It could happen. Anyway, that's Avowed. 37 is Cabernet. Where are you? There it is. So Cabernet was shown off again at the most recent Game Awards, and as such, we don't know a whole lot about it. But what I have seen of it, it does look like it is a vampire visual novel type thing. I'm not entirely sure if you're playing, Miss Harker from, Dracula, but it would the timeline would fit. It could potentially be her. But the idea is you are, you're newly turned vampire and you're trying to live, or unlive through Victorian England type things and keep your vampirism in check. Make sure nobody learns about it, and then I assume somebody does at some point, and then that's the kind of gist of the game's plot. As I said, we don't know a whole lot about it, but it has a vampire in it, so I'm there. I'm in already. And you play as the vampire, which is the crucial element to it. Because Redfall also has vampires in it, but you don't play as the vampire, so I don't care. Anyway, Cabernet is currently exclusive to PC, but I imagine that will change soon enough. Cabernet Sauvignon, I imagine that's what they're going with it. Her Cabernet, though, is a little bit more vital. A bit more fuller-bodied than a Sauvignon. Anyway, next up, number 38. Almost halfway. Actually, not even close to halfway. Anyway, Cabernet. After Cabernet is The casting of Frank Stone also shown off fairly recently. Okay, so my interest in this is like somewhat tenuous. So this is Supermassive Games, so the people behind Until Dawn, the Dark Pictures games, that kind of thing. I believe it'll be a similar type of game, a choose your own adventure, quick time event, spree thing where none of the characters are redeemable and you want to make sure they all get killed. But the casting of Frank Stone is set in the Dead by Daylight universe. And I have been kind of intrigued by the Dead by Daylight monsters and the whole lore going around about it, but I don't like the game. You know, I don't like the multiplayer asymmetric thing. It just doesn't interest me. But, you know, the kind of environment, the kind of mythology around Dead by Daylight is interesting. So this might be a way for them to sort of branch out from that and take their characters and their myths and so on with them and put it into a different kind of genre of video game. But we'll see how it plays out. Like, I don't know who Frank Stone is or anything like that, but he's got an interesting mask. So we'll see how it goes. And while not all of the Supermassive games have been great, they are at least somewhat enjoyable. There's none that I was going to say there's none I hate, but no, I do. I hate Little Hope. But the rest of them have been fine. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out. Alright, next up is Crypt Master. So Crypt Master, again, another recent Game Awards thing. I just learned I can double click on things in OBS to change their properties, so that's nice. Doubled my productivity. Okay, so floating heads in this trailer, but Crypt Master, the idea is... I'm just going to skip ahead to gameplay. So again, it's like a monochrome thing that's kind of interesting. I do like that sort of art style. It might be difficult to see because I'm covering a lot of the UI, but it's a typing game. And the deal is this Crypt Master who's talking to you is asking you things about different items it has in its possession or things that are going on in the different environments, and you have to type in, you know, your response to these things. So right now he's asking what's in the chest. And you can type in different things to see what's in the chest. You know, you can type hit in to hit enemies. You can strike to hit them. You can, you know, type in whatever you want, effectively, to sort of do combat and what have you. And I just kind of want to see how far they go with it. Because obviously there's an incredible amount of variation in the English language in what you could type in here. So I'm curious to see how, you know, how deep it gets. But apparently they have taken steps that you're not able to type in questionable words, which I think is a bit... I think it's a mistake, honestly, but we'll see. A mod will fix that pretty fast anyway, but anyway, moving on. So number 40 is Deca Police. So Deca Police, I believe it was supposed to come out this year and didn't. And then level 5 as part of their... I don't know what's going on with the aspect ratio in this video. Oh no, the video itself has a border. That's what's going on. Okay, anyway. Deca Police is a Japanese RPG thing with protagonists who are way too young for their job, but okay. You're playing a detective, but it plays out a little bit more like a turn-based combat kind of thing instead of... I don't know why I heard Chicken Police. Chicken Police? Deca Police? Close enough. The Chicken Police sequel is actually meant to be out next year as well, Melwan. It'll be out. It's not in my list. It's in your list. Anyway, yeah, so level 5, they had a investors talk thing earlier last month where they were talking about what's coming up on their schedule. because they haven't released anything in a while, and that's because they've been all their teams have been working on games, basically. Which is kind of poor management for them. They should really have a staggered release schedule, and it seems like they're actually going to have a fairly hefty release schedule this year, and then once again have nothing for the next 2 or 3 years, which obviously isn't amazing. But anyway, we haven't heard a whole lot from Deca Police, but it is a level 5 RPG. Level 5 make excellent RPGs. I haven't played the first one yet. I gotta play it first. Gotta get around to it. Anyway, I just don't want to see that lifelike giant insect head thing. That's all. You guys can look at that if you want. I don't want to see that. Anyway, next up. So next up is Duck Detective and the Secret Salami, and that is not a euphemism. Somebody did indeed steal a salami. Alright, so Duck Detective is another detective game, but not it's not a turn-based RPG thing. This is a proper detective game, where you play a duck who's also a detective. It plays a little bit like Return of the Obra Dinn, in that this is more of a deductive kind of thing. Like, it's like a fill-in-the-blanks sort of puzzle thing, where you're given like a sentence with missing words and that kind of thing, and you need to fill in what those words are, and then talking to people and investigating the environment and finding evidence gives you more things to put into that blank to sort of fill out what's going on. But also, I love this sort of diorama thing they're going for with these little standees for the characters. I think it's really cute. I believe right now it is a PC exclusive. Possibly Switch. No, PC exclusive. Exclusive. PC exclusive by a developer called Happy Broccoli. Not in my experience, but okay. Anyway, yeah, we'll see how this goes. But I think it'll be a fun game. Okay, we've got another game that again was supposed to come out this year but was delayed for various reasons. So Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, started off life looking like it's one of these, all right. Started off life kind of looking like a Souls-like thing, but set in alternative Earth. In this version of Earth, the gods are very real. They have effectively taken over. They're tyrants. And the gist of it is you're one particular person who has partnered up with a kind of demigod creature, and you're gonna, overthrow the dynasty or what have you. Whatever, it's not important. Combat is more important. And it felt like it was gonna be a kind of Souls-like thing, but it has this kind of, New World kind of setting to it, which was different. And obviously the weapons that you would have available to you would be a little bit different. They're leaning a little bit more into Native American Native American kind of protagonist. To be honest, what sold me on this was how that skeleton got off the ground. I was like, okay, that's pretty metal. I've never seen that before. I'll go back to it because I was talking over it, but look how this skeleton gets off the ground. He slides his head up his own sword and then takes the sword out of his head. Like, that's like, cool. I want to meet whoever came up with that storyboard. That was amazing. Anyway, this is obviously a CG trailer. I'm not sure if this trailer has actual combat in it, but the combat plays a little bit more like the newer God of War than it does with the Soulsy type things. So you're partnered up with this dog, cat thing, whatever it is. I think they're calling it a carbuncle, but anyway, it has interdimensional properties and is responsible for a lot of your magic and what have you. And is the reason you're able to fight all these things. Yeah, I think that's a full CG trailer. Is there combat maybe all the way at the end? Nope, no combat. Anyway, that was supposed to come out earlier this year, but was delayed into next year. And I don't know, it'll be out at some point before the end of the year. All right, 43. So 43 will be the only game on the list that is in early access. And that's Hades 2. And you know why that's here. You know why that, because Hades is amazing. The trailer back up here, so when I change it, it doesn't go all over the place. Okay, so despite this being early access, which means technically it actually doesn't come out next year. It comes out at best 2025, version 1.0. But I think because the original Hades has had such good critical reception and community reception, like it's an amazing game. Like the original Hades is fantastic. This is also going to be the first sequel from Supergiant. Supergiant typically have not done sequels, but this is the first time that they're going to do one. So that will be curious. And for people who have finished Hades, properly finished it, the story has some interesting places it can go. So it'll be curious to see where it goes with it. You don't appear to be playing the protagonist from the first game. You're playing a new character. So whether they show up again, and whether Hades themselves shows up, as you can see, they're not in this CG scene. But yeah, it being early access, obviously it's going to be a while before the game will be finished completely and have its version 1.0. And I do still maintain my stance on I don't play early access games. I will wait. I'm not paying to be QA, basically, is my stance on it, even though if I was going to make an exception, it would be this game. But I'm holding strong to it. I'll just watch other people play it instead. Anyway. Okay, 44. We're getting there. You're obviously not gonna be able to tell much from 44's cover art because it doesn't have any, but Harold Halibut is this next one, and again, we don't know a whole lot about what's going on in Harold Halibut, but I'm mostly here for its art style and art direction. So it's being presented almost like old 80s puppetry. So like Captain Planet, for anyone who knows that. Not Captain Planet, Captain Starlet, Thunderbirds, that kind of thing. Like it has that art style to it, but obviously you can't see the strings and they don't move like the puppets, but that's what they look like. And I've never seen that in a video game. So I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out. I believe the gist of it is you make friends with this sort of underwater creature that's stuck here on this undersea base with you, and you're just trying to make the most of it. But no worries, Melvin. Thanks for keeping me company. Talk to you in a bit. And you're just sort of trying to help them fit in, and then you're learning things about people and prejudices, that kind of thing. Anyway, see how it plays out. But again, what's mostly drawing me in here is that I've never seen this sort of kind of puppetry thing that they're going for. Okay, next 5. So this is a Kickstarter title that I have helped kickstart. This is Hollow Body. This is made by Headwear Games. Recently, or most previously, have made a game called Chasing Static. So Hollow Body is a kind of throwback to PS1 era survival horror, or early PS2 era survival horror, most notably Silent Hill. The idea is you are a black market courier. You have delivered a package outside of this kind of urban zone that everyone's locked into, like mega city thing. And you've gone to deliver your package and you're on your way back from doing so, but your hover car stalls or has a malfunction or something happens and you crash in these ruins that are outside of the urban area. And there's a reason people have a big wall between them and these ruins, because some horrible shit has happened there. And now everybody lives confined into this big urban city. And the gist of the game is you are now stuck on this, ruined area with monsters, ? And you now have to do survival horror things like find fuses and screwdrivers and hit things with wooden boards and stuff like that. But yeah, nice throwback to like Silent Hill survival horror. And their previous game, Chasing Static, had some really interesting writing and story elements to it as well. So yeah, kind of on board for Hollow Body. Again, we don't know when exactly. In 2024, I am in their Discord, but they've been keeping quiet on when they plan to release it. Just that it will be 2024 at some point. Anyway, that's Hollow Body. Moving on to number 46. 46 is Hotel Barcelona. So Hotel Barcelona needs to update its cover art, because I only have this version of it, which is letterboxed. It's letterboxed in a square. Incredible. Anyway, they need to fix that. Hopefully they will, because I would rather get some better art for them. But Hotel Barcelona is a team-up game between Suda51 and Swery65. They're both kind of quirky, eccentric Japanese developers. Swery is probably best known for his stories and his characters and stuff like that, but not so much for his games. His games tend to be very janky. Very, very janky. So that's like Deadly Premonition, The Good Life, JJ Macfield, that kind of thing. That's Swery. Whereas Suda is No More Heroes, Killer 7... It was Lollipop Chainsaw, Shadows of the Damned. That's Suda's thing. So he makes a bit more accomplished games, also with kind of quirky characters, but I think Swery might have him a bit beat on weird and zany stories and stuff like that. The idea of Hotel Barcelona, it's a Metroidvania thing. There are serial killers from all over the US who are come to stay in this hotel for whatever reason. I don't know how they got everybody to stay here, but whatever. We'll think about it. And you are one of them, maybe? ? Not clear. But you will be fighting them in a bit of a No More Heroes kind of fight all the things type thing. So you can certainly see where Suda is coming into this. Suda and Swery are getting just a lot of film references. Like a lot of these enemies you're looking at are heavily referenced from other horror slasher villains and that kind of thing. Anyway, Hotel Barcelona at some point in 2024. The recent developer update was that, yes, White Owls, which is Swery's developing and publishing house, will be releasing 2 games next year. This is one of them. The other one is their VR Danganronpa thing that I don't know how to feel about, to be honest. Because it looks like it's more of a multiplayer thing. That's why it's not on the list, because I'm not entirely sold on it just yet. Anyway. Agent 47. This would have been great if this was a Hitman reference for number 47, but it's not. It's not. IO Interactive are very much done with Hitman for the time being, I think. Okay, this is Janet DeMornay is a slumlord and a witch. So I've seen this in a couple of different showcases. So the idea with, most recently, the Day of the Devs, the most recent one kind of showed off a lot more of the gameplay. It does have a kind of escape room survival horror element to it. The kind of gist of it is Janet DeMornay is a slumlord and a witch. You are a tenant of Janet DeMornay. Your apartment / shared condo or whatever it is is kind of gradually falling apart. Doors don't open, they're locked for no reason, electricity goes on and off, and so on. And you're largely just trying to keep it. You're sort of trying to keep it contained, and then also avoid Janet de Mornay and whatever else might be lurking in the area. And since she's also a witch, some strange things can happen in the area as well. Like you saw there, you open the door, it's one thing, you close it, and then knock on it a different way, it turns into a different room. There's all sorts of strangeness going on here. And the idea, I think, is if you are... If Janet is given a reason to come to the tenancy, to like fix something, or people are complaining about something or whatever, I think the idea is you're trying to not let her in. Now, I keep saying I think the idea is, and I assume because I don't know. But the concept of it and the title, to be honest, is kind of really funny. So I'm kind of curious to see how the game plays. And if it is a sort of escape room, survival horror vibe to it, I mean, I do like that kind of stuff. Where's my mouse? I lost my mouse. Okay. $48. What was 48? All right, Kitsune, the Journey of Adashino. So, again, this is a sort of questionable connection for me. A lot of this is its art style, and just the environment and presentation it's got going for it. Looks really interesting. You're playing this fox girl, who I assume is Kitsune, because that's what that means. There is a sort of mystery element going on this island. I think they're having a market or something at some point. There's like supernatural elements to it as well. You're accompanied by this kind of frog character who's trying to help you out. I think it plays like a side-scrolling puzzle type thing. I don't think it's quite on the level of a survival horror, but there are horror elements. You sort of just explore the island and search for clues and figure out why you're on this island, why you've washed up here, and that kind of thing. Again, the art style and its presentation, it feels like it's a somewhat wholesome, and then also has this sort of horror vibe to it going along with it. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm here for it anyway. And the idea of you having a charming frog character following you around is kind of fun. Right now, this is a PC and Switch exclusive. Janet de Mornay that we talked about the last video yesterday is also it's a PC exclusive. Anyway, we'll see how this turns out. Okay, 49 is even more wholesome, if that was possible. Little Kitty, Big City. We played this part of one of the Steam Next Fests this year. We played a little bit of this. Just gonna get the trailer up real quick. As the title of the game might suggest, you are a kitty and the city is big. You are a fairly sheltered cat, kitten even, quite young. And at the very beginning of the game, you fall out of your balcony perch. And since you're a cat, obviously you land on your feet and nothing bad happens. But now you can't get back. And the city and everything about it is all very new to you. And you're like distracted by doing lots of different things and what have you. But the general idea is you're trying to get back home. And there'll be certain times where the area is blocked off and you'll need somebody's help. And that person will ask you to do things for them. By person, I mean other animal, like this crow who wants you to collect things for them, this duck family to bring them back, this dog who wants to give you help and so on, and you can wear stupid hats, and it's very fun, It's got a lot of Untitled Goose Game to it, but, you're not trying to be deliberately mischievous, like the goose. Well, maybe the player is, but the cat isn't necessarily trying to be deliberately mischievous, they're just being a cat. They're just naturally mischievous, I guess. Anyway, that is currently a Switch and PC exclusive. All right, number 50. We're getting there. We're past the halfway mark anyway. So number 50 is Little Nightmares 3. So Little Nightmares 3 is being handled by a different studio this time around. It's not Tarsier. Just going to get the trailer up. Sorry, it's not Tarsier. Who's doing Little Nightmares 3? You're right, Supermassive are doing it. So Supermassive, I feel, are starting to push themselves a bit thin. They're working on a lot of things all at once. And they've also recently changed engines. They've moved to Unreal Engine 5 for some of their games, so there's going to be teething issues there. But anyway, would have been nice if Tarsier were allowed to stay on this, but I think they're busy with something else now. But yeah, the Little Nightmares games, at least the original one, I haven't finished the second one, but the original one was good. I did like it a lot. I felt it was maybe a little bit too short. The second one, what I've played of it, I don't like it as much as the first one, but I still quite like it, and I like this sort of tilt shift Tim Burton horror thing they've got going for them with these tiny people and these big nightmares, as the as it sort of is, or are the small people, are they the little nightmares? And actually, it's this mirror that's got me very interested. That mirror has a pretty important role in the first Little Nightmares. So I'm kind of curious to see what role it plays in the third game, but we'll see. Again, it's just 2024. We don't know when exactly, but I would imagine Halloween, because I think Little Nightmares 2 was Halloween. So was Little Nightmares 1. Okay. 51 is Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, which has a pretty fantastic name. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, even. Labor Eyes. They look at you, they make you do work. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is from the same developer who made Sayonara Wild Hearts, which also has a fantastic title. Simogo. So Sayonara Wild Hearts has a really interesting art style, and a lot of people kind of rave about the game. I wasn't hugely enamored with the game, but its art direction and its art style, its whole kind of style in general, was really good. So they're kind of taking the same vibe of Sayonara Wild Hearts and sort of applying it to a different genre. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes feels like it's more of a detective type game or a mystery puzzle type thing, whereas Sayonara Wild Hearts was a bit more of a rhythm game, kind of. Not really. So it's hard to explain really what Sayonara Wild Hearts was. More of a quick time event game, I suppose. But yeah, kind of digging this kind of hard shadows they're going for, which is something that you saw a lot of in a lot of Suda games, actually. Killer 7, Killer is Dead, Shadows of the Damned, Catherine. No, Catherine's not Suda. Wait, is Catherine Suda? Maybe? I think Catherine did this hard shadow stuff as well. Anyway, I like it. So I'm going to give this a shot, and we'll see. As I said, I'm not a Sayonara Wild Hearts fan, mega fan, or what have you. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it exactly. I don't understand the hype, I guess. Anyway. Alright, next up is Lost Soul Aside. Again, we have not heard anything of for a very long time. So it's questionable if it's still coming out in 2024. It's questionable if it's even still being worked on. So Lost Soul Aside started off as a fan attempt to do the combat in Final Fantasy XIV and make it a bit more fluid and clean, whereas Final Fantasy XIV can get a little bit chunky. Chunky? Clunky? Chunky. Sure, whatever. This train has been going on too long. My brain is starting to melt. This started off being made by a solo dev, and it got a lot of press from different people seeing it on Twitter, and then articles were written about it and interviews with the solo dev and so on, because it looked really impressive at the time. And since then they've had a couple of different developers reach out to them, say, hey, do you want to we'll help you make this game. And I believe Sony is the one who won out, so Sony is partnering with this developer and has given them a development team as well to work on it too. Hired a development team and hired them as well, helping them out. They're paying them, So you can see kind of what they were going for first time with, the Final Fantasy 15 combat, which was warp striking, which is like, throw your sword at the enemy and then teleport to your sword to continue the combat. This has obviously grown massively since then. And even the most recent Final Fantasy 16, you can see a lot of that combat, but this is even more insane stuff going on here. They've been working on this a very, very long time now. And I imagine it's been started and stopped and started again. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it does actually come out. The last we heard of it, it was slated for 2024. But we'll see, because we haven't heard anything about it since. And obviously, since Sony is, partnering with them, it's a PlayStation exclusive. But I do think it's getting a PC port as well. Okay, 53. 53 is Lo-Fi. Again, a game that feels like it's been coming out forever. So this is only the second VR title on the list. While I would have preferred a lot of the games that I've shown you, particularly a lot of the first-person games I've shown you were, had VR ports, because I feel a lot of them would benefit from it. This one is being made specifically as a VR game. Feels like it's being made forever. As you can see, it's got a pretty strong Blade Runner cyberpunk feel to it. Despite it being called lo-fi, these are all very high fidelity visuals. It's debatable if it will even run on a lot of VR platforms right now. None of this footage is taken from a VR headset. This is all running off a PC. Obviously VR games run off a PC, but you know what I mean. This isn't cut for the aspect ratio of a VR headset. This is cut specifically for a 16:9 monitor. But yeah, it looks incredible, right? And I believe the gist of the game is you are a detective in cyberpunk land, and you are given a kind of gist of a case, and then it's up to you to sort of solve it the way you want to. So there's a lot of immersive sim elements to it as well. Now, that sounds incredibly ambitious and then, partner all of that with the visuals. This seems like, and there's no way. There's absolutely no way. Anyway, you can see coming when it's done, 2023. That did not happen, so I guess it wasn't done in 2023. Last we heard of it, 2024. This is allegedly captured from live gameplay, but live gameplay from a PC, flat PC, as opposed to the VR headset itself. Allegedly coming to PSVR 2 as well as PC VR. I doubt it. PC VR, I can see. PSVR 2, considerable concessions I think will have to be made if it's going to maintain that level of quality. Okay, 54 is Luto. So Luto is a first-person horror game. Definitely going for the... Thanks for the follow, Johnny. So this is going for a, PT vibe, very high fidelity first-person stuff.
Hello there. Do it.
Do it.
More of this.
Use them all.
Disgusting!
Very good.
Good stuff. Right. Anyway, that was a lot of channel points to use up all in one go. So Luto is meant to be a first-person PT, high-fidelity type thing. It's going for, what do they call it? non-Euclidean space things where, you know, you're meant to be in a house, but you turn a corner and suddenly there's extra rooms and then that kind of thing. So it is going for this kind of PT level of not jump scares, but just having everything be so high fidelity that it's kind of off-putting. You know, you're waiting to be jump scared at any moment. You're walking around environments and you're seeing things moving in your peripheral vision and that kind of thing. I've played the demo a little bit, and yeah, it's really creepy and really eerie, and I couldn't finish it because I was like, "Oh fuck this, I'm out of here." So yeah, will I play the full game if the demo is enough to make me just go, Jesus Christ? We'll see. I will certainly try. Anyway, that's Luto. Clicking too many times. Okay, so 55. $55 is Mariachi Legends. Mariachi Legends is a Kickstarter thing that I haven't kickstarted, mostly because I missed the Kickstarter because I didn't realize it was a thing. Mariachi Legends is the next game from Halberd Studios. Halberd Studios are the people behind... Okay, this just has a weird aspect ratio. It doesn't fit the whole thing. Anyway, Halberd Studios are the people who made 9 Years of Shadows that we did a full Let's Play of this year. It's over on the YouTube channel if you want to check it out. YouTube.com. Where's my thing? If you want to check it out, it's there. Anyway, we did a full Let's Play of that, and I liked the beginning of it. I thought it was really good. It was only really near the end of it that I was kind of getting a bit bored of it at the time, but not bored, frustrated. I wasn't bored of it. I was still enjoying it. It was just I found a lot of the combat and a lot of the bosses a little bit too annoying. Mariachi Legends is kind of going for, as you might imagine, a more South American vibe. But it's still a kind of Metroidvania side-scrolling combat type thing. But it's leaning, hopefully, a bit more into the combat elements of it. 9 Years of Shadows had very samey combat. You know, you only ever had the one weapon, and the weapon did the same combo every time. There's very little change to it. You occasionally charged it up, but that was about it. So hopefully Mariachi Legends has a bit more combat variation than 9 Years of Shadows. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful they'll make a decent change to it. But I guess we'll see. 6. So 56 is The Mermaid's Tongue. This is a Grim Grimoire game. Again, it was shown off, I think it was Day of the Devs it was shown off. So, The Mermaid's Tongue is a follow-up to Tangled Tower. It is another kind of detective thing. It's another kind of fill-in-the-blanks, deductive reasoning type thing. The art style is really interesting. What I've heard of Tangled Tower is, it's like all good things. I don't think anyone has anything bad to say about it. So, one, I need to go play Tangled Tower. But by then, hopefully, this game will have come out, and then I can play that, because I do like its presentation. I do like the kind of interplay between the two characters, how they talk to each other. It's got comedic, humorous elements to it. So hopefully, it turns out well, and I should add Tangled Tower to my list, which I think I already have, but I need to confirm I've actually done that. Okay, 57. Is the next game from the developers who made Gris. This is Neva, or Neva. Not entirely sure how to pronounce the game. So Gris was a very nice, colorful, side-scrolling puzzle type game. Neva seems like maybe their publisher told them to put some more action in the game. You can see it's still a very pretty looking game. Gris had this sort of painterly watercolor vibe to it, and I think they're still kind of going for that with Neva. Neva looks like it's going to have a kind of Okami vibe to it, in that you're sort of trying to right nature or fix whatever's going wrong with it. It's got this fairly emotional scene here where you're protecting whatever's going on here, and then the wolf mother and their cub. You're trying to protect them, and you're the wolf mother sacrifices themselves to save you. Anyway, it's like a fairly emotional trailer. How the game itself plays out, we'll see. There's no gameplay in this trailer. I'm just gonna skip past the scary bit, but then it's just you and the cub, and it's not fun times. Anyway, 2024, some point. I don't think it's PlayStation exclusive. It is not. It is modern consoles and PC. Developer Nomada Studio. Oh, they made 12 minutes. I think they made Gree and then they made 12 minutes, and now they're making this. Okay. I haven't played 12 minutes, mostly because I heard it wasn't that good. 58. Okay, so 58 is Nivalis. Nivalis is kind of a follow-up to a game we played this year called Cloudpunk. So Cloudpunk we did a full Let's Play of as part of my Foley Fables series. It's sort of a visual novel / driving game where you drive around the city of Nivalis. That's what the sequel / follow-up game is called. Doing various odd job deliveries and talking to people and getting to know the city, and figuring out that the city itself is maybe on its last legs. Nivalis is set in the same city. It's not the same character. You are playing somebody who's an up-and-comer. You inherit or possibly are forcibly given somebody's noodle stand to manage at the beginning of the game, and then you use the money from that to build up, and you open a different restaurant somewhere else, or you buy another location and this kind of thing. And it's generally a kind of business management and slice of life thing, because you have to live in Nivalis as well. You go around different shops and buying things and dealing with your survival bars and all that kind of stuff. And it's a chance to see the rest of the city at a much lower and much closer up. So Cloudpunk, while you could get out of the car and walk around, and you could first person mode it, the way it was built, it's sort of like a Minecraft city. Everything was made of cubes, and it would look very pretty. They did an excellent job with it. This is obviously not made of cubes, so I imagine this probably took them considerably longer to make. Or maybe not. I mean, placing individual cubes must have been a massive pain in the hole too. But yeah, I'm interested because the kind of, again, myth and lore that they had built up for the game was interesting. So I would like to see more of it. And since you can kind of take your time with it now, it's like visual novels kind of move as fast as you want them to move. Sometimes they go too fast. It looks like you'll be more or less taking your time with it, with Nivalis. Anyway, 2024 at some point. We don't know when exactly. Okay, 59. Okay, On Your Tail was shown off at the last Nindies thing, the Indie Showcase, Indie Spotlight, whatever Nintendo calls it. This is Sherlock Holmes, but you're a furry, I guess. Where is it? There it is. Sorry, I'm trying to find it in my big folder of trailers. Yeah, this was shown off during the last Nintendo Indie Spotlight. You are playing this character who's gone home for the summer as a sort of stress relief from your, very stressful job as a police detective. I think you might just be a photojournalist, actually. I'm not sure. But as you're, it's coming to the end and you have to go back to the city or whatever, some shenanigans start to happen in the city, and now you're brought in as a, professional trying to figure out what's going on in the city and that kind of thing. And I did like the presentation of the crime scenes, as you saw there. They're done as a kind of diorama where you're placing things down and how things happen. You've got little standees and cards and stuff, and it all looks very nice and tactile. Again, it's this, or not this year, 2024 at some point. We don't know when. And despite it showing up on the... Oh no, never mind. I'm looking at the wrong line. This will be a Nintendo Switch exclusive for now. Okay, 60. We're getting there. It's alphabetical order, so how far we are into the alphabet is how much is left, basically. And the real question is, how many games start with the letter S? How many games start with the letter T, and so on? Anyway, this game starts with the letter P. This is Parcel Core that we saw, I think it was at a Summer Games Fest. So Parcel Core is a bit of a Jet Set Radio kind of thing, but you're on a mountain bike. Ostensibly, you have a parcel to deliver, and you need to get it from point A to point B as fast as possible. And to do that, you obviously need to do crazy parkour shenanigans on your mountain bike. Or your career bike, or whatever way you want to look at it. This trailer is actually quite funny, but I'm going to skip ahead to some of the actual gameplay. So you got things, you can slide under things, you can bounce off of walls somehow on your bike, don't ask questions, and all sorts of tricks and stuff. So if you're into the Tony Hawk's thing, or Jet Set Radio type things, and then also a crazy taxi vibe because there's somewhat of a time element to it. Anyway, it's got that going for it. I'd like to see a bit more of the game, but we haven't seen too much of it, but they are obviously leaning into the kind of silliness in their marketing and their trailers and what have you.
So it's up to you.
Anyway.
Bicycle courier, to deliver this foot-long grilled chicken, cheese, and fritz with melon.
All right, 61.
Save the world.
We're still in the P's. Pepper Grinder. So Pepper Grinder was shown off in a Devolver Direct at some point. Might have been Summer's Devolver Direct. So Pepper Grinder, I don't know the name of the character, actually. I was going to say they're called Pepper, but I don't think they are. You have this drill. And this drill can kind of go through pretty much anything, I think is the idea. There's certain elements I think it can't go through, but whatever. And you use that to traverse the landscape in kind of interesting ways. Engage in combat in kind of interesting ways and that kind of thing. But it's also meant to be sort of fluid way for you to get from point A to point B through the level by digging your way around the place. You can get different elements for your drill, so you can add different things to the drill and turn it into different things. At one point you can attach a minigun to it, and now you have a gun. You can attach a big shield to the end of it and all sorts of things. There's a grappling hook there at one point. Yeah, there's lots of different things you can do there. But a lot of it seems like it's going to be precision platforming. It seems to be what they're going for with the game. But yeah, 2024, at some point. Who knows? Well, hopefully they do, but we don't. Okay, so 62. All right, Peripeteia. I don't know a whole lot about Peripeteia, but I did play the demo that they brought out on the Steam Next Fest, and it did look really interesting. So it does have... So this is the first person, although you can turn it to third person, but for the most part it's played in first person. I think it's a Polish dev, and it's got a lot of old school old school System Shock and old school Deus Ex to it. So it's got heavy immersive sim qualities to it. Lots of different ways to approach the same problem. Got a pretty large city with a lot going on in it. And there's just a ton of different ways that you can approach different obstacles. The demo itself had you trying to help out this person who had reactivated you. You have cyborg parts, so they've turned you back on. They weren't trying to do that. They were actually hoping to salvage you for parts, but unfortunately you're actually still sentient, so they can't do that. So to make up for their lost revenue, they've asked you to do something for them. And you have to go off and infiltrate this planetarium that's been taken over by a local gang. And there's all sorts of ways you can get in there. And, you can climb up and drop in from the ceiling. You work your way up from underneath. You can talk your way through. You can cheat your way through. Loads of different ways of getting in. You can stack a bunch of boxes and hop in through a window. Loads of different things. Like Deus Ex. And since you have cyborg augments, not unlike Deus Ex, there's different things you can use those things for. You know, if they have cybernetic equipment, you can hijack it and like puppeteer that person and walk around as them. You never even have to go into the building. You can hack into things, and 0451 is there. They know exactly what they're doing. That is a running meme in the immersive sim genre of games. Yeah, I'm hoping to see more of this game. I think the Steam Deck had some trouble playing it. That will be my common refrain for pretty much every demo I play, because they're obviously not optimized at that point for Linux yet. But anyway, we'll see how it turns out. This is again slated for 2024, but I think it's going to be an early access thing for 2024. But we'll see. All right, 63. All right, so get in, check where we are in the alphabet. Right, and get in your prediction for what you think 69 is going to be. And if you think it's going to be a nice game. Anyway, no, not 53, 63. So 63 is the Plucky Squire. We have seen this shown off at a bunch of different showcases, most recently Day of the Devs at the Game Awards. But it's been in a couple of Nintendo Indie Direct things. So the idea with the Plucky Squire is you play the Plucky Squire in a storybook for children. And one day, the villain of the storybook discovers that they're the villain of the story, and they don't want to be the villain. And they figure the best way to not be the villain is for there to not be a hero to fight them. So they kick you out of the book, and you end up in the real world. And you discover that you can now move from the book into the real world and vice versa. So, kind of general gist of it is when you get kicked out of the book, you now interact in a 3D environment with, wherever the book happened to be, on the desk, or you can drop down off the desk and, roll around on the carpet, and you might get attacked by the family cat and so on. Well, got a whole sort of new adventures, but the book isn't the only 2D thing you can jump into. You can jump into mugs and other books and the wall and Paper Mario style and that kind of thing. Yeah, I can't imagine why this has taken so long to come out, because that's a whole lot of programming. Really, really tricky programming they had to do there. But yeah, it was only recently delayed into 2024. Hopefully it'll be early enough in 2024, but happy enough to wait until it's done. I also just realized their sword is also a pen. That's what the drawing stuff comes from. Very clever. I assume that's intentional. Anyway, the sword looks like it's like a fountain pen nib. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just seeing things. Okay, 64 is Rekka. Rekka, I've talked about before on the channel because I really like the vibe it's going for. It's Baba Yaga simulator, effectively. You are playing, I think, an apprentice to Baba Yaga, who's the witch who walks around. The witch whose hut sits on top of chicken legs and walks around the forest, kind of thing. So it is a sort of survival-y type game. You are like cultivating herbs for your spells and stuff like that. What the actual gameplay is, I'm not entirely sure. Is it just a farming sim and a base management type thing? Because I think at night you can reconstruct the witch's hut to make it different, add extra floors to it and extra rooms and stuff like that. And then during the day it walks around. You take it to different parts of the forest to collect different items for your spells. Or maybe you can just construct it whenever you want. And then eventually, when it's done, it starts walking around. I don't know. Anyway, 2024, right now it's a PC exclusive, and I think it's an early access thing, but I'm not entirely sure. All right, 65. Has your game come up yet? Has your game for 69 come up yet? Let me know in the chat. All right, Replaced is number 64 or 65 even. So Replaced, I've been sort of keeping my eye on for it a little bit ever since I saw the trailer for it. The trailer has some pretty great music. Hopefully I don't get what's the word? DCMA copyright strike for this music. I think I picked the trailer that doesn't have the good music just to avoid that. But anyway, replaced is a side-scrolling sort of a brawler, and that's sort of like a platform traversal type thing. I think you are playing a cyborg guy who has recently come up for termination or something like that. Again, don't know a whole lot about the story. Mostly what I liked about the game is, again, its style and its art direction. It's got this kind of pseudo sheen to it, like it's on a CRT, but it's not really. You can see very close to the foreground, bottom of the screen, what they're kind of going for with like the specularity that you would not get from a pixel art kind of game typically. So it's using like real-time lighting, but also a pixel art style, which is very kind of Square Enix's HD 2D stuff that they're going for with like Octopath Traveler and that kind of thing. But it's this kind of level of combat that I really like the look of. The kind of tilting of the camera like that. When you're moving, when you're swaying side to side, the camera sort of judders with you. Whether that's just an affectation for the trailer or if the game actually plays like that, that will be interesting. But there seems like there's a lot of different combat abilities here. And what I'm mostly curious about is whether that is like 2022. That was for that trailer. That didn't happen. What I'm mostly curious about is whether that's a pre-rendered scene or if that's actual combat. Because if it's actual combat, holy shit. And if it's a pre-rendered scene, okay, fine. It still looks cool, but I would rather actually do that in combat. It being on Xbox Game Pass, I think it is an Xbox exclusive for now. It's PC and Xbox is what we know of it for now. That may change the closer it gets to release. But right now, that's all we know about it. Okay, 66. Haven't hit 69 yet, but it's coming. Okay, 66, Rift of the Necrodancer. So the Necrodancer games, there's two of them. I've been really interested in, but I have no rhythm. So I find them kind of hard to play. But I love their art style. I just think it's really nice. And the music that typically goes with the games, the artists they get to put their music to the games, is very good. So anything that makes it a little bit easier for me to play, these kind of rhythm games I'm fine with. You know, the stuff that's like the Guitar Heroes and what have you, I'm fine with them. It's when you're merging it with a dungeon crawler thing where I'm used to attacking as fast as I possibly can instead of in tune with the rhythm of the music. It just throws me off because it's two genres that I have completely different brains about. And I know everybody says that and they kind of get into the game eventually, but I don't know. Maybe I'm an exception. I don't know. I always found it difficult. I couldn't really do not Hellraiser. What was it? Hellseeker? What was the first person one where you also had to shoot to the rhythm? Oh, fuck, I forget what it's called now. Anyway, I was the same with that. But games that are like, no, the rhythm is literally the whole point of it, fine, no issue. If I also have to attack something at the same time, no. One half of my brain goes, no, you should be attacking as fast as possible. Anyway, we'll see. Hopefully this works out a little bit better. All right, 67 is Rise of the Golden Idol. So we don't know a ton about Rise of the Golden Idol. We don't know if it is a sequel to Case of the Golden Idol or if it is a console port for Case of the Golden Idol or what. Is it just a collection of the Case of the Golden Idol plus all of its DLC for console ports? Not sure. We do know that it is a partnership with Netflix, so you will be able to play it on your phone and stuff like that. Which won't really be an issue. I mean, the Golden Idol games don't require a massive amount of dexterity. They're point and click. A lot of it is, again, a type of deduction type thing, a fill in the blanks type of thing. We did a full playthrough of the Case of the Golden Idol. Not the Case of the Golden Curse of the Golden Idol. Wait, is it the Case of the Golden Idol? Fuck. Case or Curse? I'm not sure. I think it's Curse. It's a deductive reasoning fill in the blanks puzzle game based around this golden idol that seemingly anybody it has touched, it has killed. And you're basically charting the last 10 to 15 years of its presence in this one particular family's history. So it's possible the Rise of the Golden Idol is a follow-on to that. It might be a bit more modern. Curse of the Golden Idol was set somewhat in the past. I am seeing like police detectives and TVs and stuff like that, so seems like it's going to be at least a little bit more modern. Whether it'll actually be current time, I doubt it. That TV looked pretty old. Alright, so maybe it is a sequel. Anyway. That's Rise of the Golden Idol. As I said, it is in partnership with Netflix, so you will be able to play it on your phone, at least. But that's also a PlayStation trailer, which means it can be on PlayStation as well. In fact, by the looks of what I have on my list here, it's going to be on everything. Okay, so 68. Not 69. You got one last chance to guess. What's 69 going to be? If anybody actually guesses it and puts it in chat and gets it right, I will be astonished. All you have to go on is my personal tastes and where we are in the alphabet right now. We're at S. That's where we are right now. Senwa Saga 2, or Senwa Saga Hellblade 2, whatever way you want to put it out. Again, a game that seems like it's going to be coming out, or has been coming out for millions of years at this point. Ninja Theory, I don't think has worked on anything else since Hellblade 1. And Hellblade 1 feels like it was a PS3 game, but I don't think it was. I think it was PS4. And Xbox One. I'm not sure if it got a PC port. Anyway, this is allegedly following on from the original story. Senwa has returned from the island that she was on at the beginning. This game used to be called Senwa's War. And I think they've kind of leaned into the Senwa Saga just being the name of the series. Maybe the subtitle they might change, but they didn't. It's still Hellblade. Anyway. It is a close quarters melee game. Pretty parry heavy. At least the original one was. I don't imagine they've changed that too much. But I think what they've barely leaned into here is just graphical fidelity more than anything else. Gameplay, I'm still seeing it's much the same. It just looks nice. And by nice, like horrible, obviously. It's all mud and blood and horrible shit. But, you know, it looks incredible. But also, it looks like it has about as much gameplay as the first game did. Which was to say, mostly zero. We'll see when it comes out, but hopefully it has more to deliver than just looking incredible. Instead of, I mean, it's a video, at the end of the day, it's a video game. You know, there has to be an actual game there. Anyway, currently, this is exclusive to the Xbox Series, so it will be skipping last generation. Alright, this is your last chance to guess. Even if you're watching this, you know, not live, I have one last chance to guess. What is 69? Okay, that's too big. I was going to leave it at 69 nice, but that takes up like half the screen. Alright, what's number 69? If you guessed, sorry we're closed, then holy shit. You're fucking psychic. Or you skipped ahead and, you know, you're watching this on YouTube. Alright, Sorry We're Closed is, again, a kind of PS1 throwback to the old survival horror type games. It's not really being done with PS1 style graphics, more like PS2 style graphics, but PS2 could never do this kind of stuff. But again, that's kind of what they're going with, very blocky colors. The central gimmick for Sorry We're Closed is you are currently being attacked by sort of invisible creatures, or supernatural things. But they're only invisible until you get very close to them. And once you get close to them, they become visible again. So the issue is, if you want to hurt them, you need to be able to see them. But in order to see them, you need to get close to them. So, you know, you have that sort of dual issue of you want to deal with the enemy, but you don't want to get hit, but it also requires you to be within hitting distance and so on. But there's also this like visual novel element to it, where you're talking to all these crazy creatures that are hanging out in the shop with you. So yeah, it has some really, really trippy sort of like somewhat biblical, somewhat Zoroastrian creature design that I'm really into. So yeah, I don't know. I just want to know more. I kind of just want to know more about it before I decide if I'm actually going to play it or not. I believe combat is all done first person, but then the rest of the game is third person. Anyway, we'll see how that turns out when it comes out. Hopefully at some point in 2024. Okay, number 70. We're nearly there. We're nearly there, gang. We're getting into the very last, the last 10 of the games that I know, or at least are slated for coming out in 2024. So next up is probably a game you were not expecting to see on this list. Because a year ago, I probably wouldn't have been putting it on this list. Star Trucker. So Star Trucker is giving me like a kind of cozy, relaxing type game, I guess. So you're a trucker in the stars, if you like. Hauling cargo from moon to moon or whatever it is. And it gives me a kind of, I don't know why, but I get the feeling of like Hard Space Shipbreaker from it, even though it's not going to play anything like that. But it has that kind of vibe to it. It's like you just go out on whatever your particular cargo journey is and take it from point A to point B and collect things and keep your truck / spaceship stocked up and, hermetically sealed and so on. It just has that kind of, it strokes the same kind of itch as something like Power Wash Simulator does, as something like Hard Space Shipbreaker did for me. That's kind of what it feels like, and that's sort of what I'm looking for, because I don't really have that since I finished both Power Wash and Hard Space. I'm looking for something to fill that void right now, and I don't have it currently. So that's where Star Trucker is coming in. Otherwise, it's very different to everything else that's been on this list. Okay, 72. Only revealed this year is Star Wars Outlaws from Ubisoft. Disney have recently, maybe not that recently necessarily, but they've taken the Star Wars license. They haven't taken it away from EA, obviously, because they're still putting out the Star Wars Jedi games, but they've allowed it to sort of expand out to different people who have been able to work on it. So this is Ubisoft Massive's game. Ubisoft Massive, the last thing they worked on was the Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora stuff, so clearly they have a couple of in-house teams to be able to work on both of those games at the same time. Star Wars Outlaws looks like it's effectively going to give you the Han Solo experience for Star Wars. Like, a lot of Star Wars games are typically focused on the Jedi, right? Usually. You don't typically get the kind of scoundrel guy. Shadows of the Damned. Not Shadows of the Damned. Shadows of the Empire. Occasionally, maybe, but even then, there's still Jedi in that. I guess the hope here is that it focuses just on the scoundrel stuff. The sort of, space brigand kind of thing you're going for. And doesn't go into the Jedi and what have you, because the Star Wars Jedi's there. Like, if that's what you want, that game's there. Knights of the Old Republic is there. The Knights of the Old Republic remake ever gets made, that's there at some point. The Jedi Knight games, there's so many lightsaber-y ones. Just give us the disgusting part of Star Wars, basically. The grungy bit. That's kind of where they've been going in their more recent TV shows as well. They've been leaving the films to do the Jedi stuff, and the TV shows are kind of doing, I was going to say the more grounded parts of Star Wars. It was not exactly grounded, but anyway, that's what they're going for. Anyway, Outlaws is slated for 2024, but we don't know when exactly. I imagine this is probably a run-up to Christmas type thing, so probably September, October is what I'm thinking for Outlaws, but we'll see. 73. is Steel Seed. So Steel Seed you may not have heard of, because it was only shown off very briefly during the Future Game Show last year? Maybe the year before that? But I found it pretty intriguing when I saw it, and I do kind of just want to know more about it. So the idea with Steel Seed is it is a third-person stealth action game. It's set fairly far into the future where, I don't know, something's gone wrong with the world and AIs have taken over. Maybe it's not that far in the future, who knows. Visually, it doesn't look amazing. Like, you can see the person there looks a bit too plasticky. That's kind of just an issue with Unreal Engine 5 in general, that if you don't fix the skin in Unreal Engine 5, it kind of looks a bit plasticky. But anyway, this trailer's from a while ago. Hopefully they fixed that by then. Anyway, the visuals aren't necessarily the important part. The important part is, how does it play? And the gameplay element of it seems to be that most of the enemies you're going to encounter are way too much for you, combat-wise. So you're going to have to stealth your way around, and then either avoid enemies or take them out stealthily. But full-on engagement with them is pretty much a no-no. So think Metal Gear Solid, Splinter Cell, Tenchu, that kind of thing, where if you break stealth, you might as well just restart, kind of thing. Even though nobody likes instant fail stealth things, a lot of the times I would kind of just want the game to just fail me. It saves me the trouble of having to, you know, pause and restart checkpoint. You know, just fucking fail me and move us on. Anyway, that seems to be where they're going with it. This trailer is kind of old now. Sure if it has changed since then. You can see there was a Y prompt there, which would suggest that it is at least Xbox or Switch. One of those. It is in fact Xbox, PlayStation, and PC currently. See if that changes, and they have a bit more to talk about. Okay, 74 is Still Wakes the Deep. This is from the Chinese room, the people behind Everyone's Gone to the Rapture. So Still Wakes the Deep is set on a oil rig, or an oil derrick, just off the coast of Scotland. And something has gone wrong, because of course it has, on this abandoned, it seems to be, oil rig. And you may be the last living person there, or the last living human being on the oil rig, because it looks like there is something else out there with you. It does have this sort of abandoned and isolated feel to it. It's like help won't be coming anytime soon. You're in the middle of a fairly nasty storm in a very isolated part of the world. You're on your own, really, in general here. It does look like it's going for more of a horror vibe than Everybody's Gone to the Rapture did. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture always had a sort of tense thing to it, in that you know something's wrong, but you don't know what. Whereas Still Wakes the Deep is, you do know something's wrong, and you don't know exactly what it is, but you know it's going to kill you if it finds you. That's kind of where that's going. We have seen a little bit more of this since then, but not a huge amount. So we're still sort of waiting to see what exactly, like how much of this is a cat and mouse stealth game and how much of it is just vibes. Scary vibes. Oops. Nope, not 7,000. Okay, I don't think there's that, well, I was gonna say, I don't think there's that many games coming out next year, but I don't know, there's a lot of fucking shit gets put on Steam. Maybe. Okay, Tormented Souls 2. Not tormented enough, I guess. They came back for more. So, I haven't played the original Tormented Souls, but it is something I've been meaning to fit in. So again, this was another Future Game Show thing. Wow, Deuteronomy, you're a bit fucked up. All right, anyway, Tormented Souls follow on from, or Tormented Souls 2 follow on from Tormented Souls 1. Looks like you're playing the same protagonist from the original game. This is an entirely CG cutscene. There's no video, or there's no gameplay elements to it. But the original Tormented Souls is like an old Resident Evil, like the old PS1 style survival horror types, where, well, maybe a bit more Silent Hill type thing. But anyway, the old survival horror things where you weren't the scariest thing in the game. The enemies were the scariest thing in the game. Again, there's not a whole lot to show off here in Tormented Souls 2. But the original is getting some pretty good feedback from the community. Seem to enjoy it quite a lot. So, one, much like Tangle Tower, I need to play the original Tormented Souls, and then hopefully by then, Tormented Souls 2. Yeah, subscribe now. Subscribe to my face. Don't clicking on my face won't do anything. I don't think you can subscribe by clicking on my face. We're not on YouTube. If we're in YouTube, you can click on my face. All right, anyway, moving on. 76. We're nearly there. We're almost there, everybody. Okay, Visions of Mana was sort of just... Well, it was leaked ahead of the Game Awards, and then the trailer was shown off then at the Game Awards as well. But there hasn't been a main Mana entry in quite a while. And what they've been showing off here is a huge upgrade from the most recent Mana game that wasn't a remake or a remaster. But it looks gorgeous. You know, very colorful, like cartoonish. Gives you a lot of like relaxing vibes to it. You know, the Mana series was always a kind of more friendly JRPG as opposed to, you know, something like... It's not that Final Fantasy wasn't friendly, but Final Fantasy had a few more adult themes to it, whereas Mana series was always a little bit more younger skewing, so it's a little bit more of a cozy game to play. So I'm excited to play this, to be honest. Like, I'm very interested, and that just very small little bit of combat that I saw there was pretty cool. There's a double jump, there's a backwards dash. Nice stuff. Anyway. But you can see from the enemy designs, they're not going for like crazy monster stuff. Everything has big eyes and, you know, flat features and stuff like that. It's all meant to be cuddly, basically. Even that big squid that was trying to kill you. Still wanna plush of him. Alright, 77 is Spirit of the Samurai. Again, not one we've heard much of since it was shown off. Also, be ready for way to... I have Spirit of the Samurai down. I skipped Spirit of the Samurai. That's what happened. Okay. Spirit of the Samurai is actually 71. I think I went straight from 70 to 72. Anyway, I was going to say get ready for uncomfortably realistic weird fox thing. Anyway, Spirit of the Samurai is going for kind of a stop motion vibe. And I'm not sure how well it pulls it off exactly. As it does somewhat give the feeling that the animations are just incomplete. But they're kind of going for a stop motion thing. And we'll see how well they're able to pull it off, but it is a side-scrolly combat thing, and I do like that sort of thing, so... Plus there's a cat. There's a cat and a weird fox, and you play as a samurai cat at some point, so that's pretty great. Their last game, though, is maybe a little bit... Nope, they didn't have a last game. Alright, I don't know who I'm thinking about. Thinking about somebody. Anyway. Right, moving on to the real 77. I like that fake 77. Yeah, we were wondering how I got to V without doing Spirit of the Samurai. Here we are. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Another game that's been coming out for a billion years. Mostly because it has been in and out of development a couple of times. So this is another Chinese room game. They're possibly delivering 2 games next year. Bloodlines 2 will be a pretty significant departure for the Chinese room because they have been you know, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and Still Wakes the Deep were both felt like walkie-talkie simulators, whereas Bloodlines 2 is very much, or at least Bloodlines, the original, is very much not that. It's a very in-depth game. And if Bloodlines 2 isn't as in-depth as that, there's gonna be some angry gamers out there, I think. But we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. They don't have the track record for it, mostly because they just haven't made a game like this before. But we'll see. What's a little concerning is how combat heavy this trailer is. Whereas Bloodlines had about as much combat as it had just dialogue talking to people. Like, it was an RPG. Like a tabletop RPG. Like Dungeons and Dragons. Like, combat is only one element of Dungeons and Dragons. There's the exploration element to it, and there's the social element to it. Vampire the Masquerade, if anything, has more of those two than it does combat. So having a trailer that's focused almost exclusively on that is a little concerning. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, 78. Okay, another game that's been in development for a billion years. The Wolf Among Us 2. Is it ever coming out? Who knows? Who knows? Okay, so The Wolf Among Us 2, obviously taking place just after the original The Wolf Among Us, which was a PS3 title, so it's been quite a while since we've seen this. If you're not familiar with it, this is The Fables, effectively. So the characters from Grimm's fairy tales and a bunch of other like children's stories that absolutely should not be children's stories, but okay, have been pushed out into the real world, and they're having to sort of slum it because a lot of them are just, well, one, not human, so they can't really, you know, pass in our world. Some of the characters are able to pass in our world because they're still human. You know, Snow White and so on are able to pass, but like somebody like, well, the Tin Man that you're about to see here and the various Wizard of Oz characters obviously couldn't pass. You're playing as Bigby, or aka the Big Bad Wolf, who is a werewolf, so they're able to pass as humans as long as they don't get angry. If they get angry, obviously they turn into the Big Bad Wolf. You are effectively the enforcer for the fables, as they're called, because, you know, they can't tell the real world about their, you know, powers and stuff like that. So you're there to sort of keep them in check, but also you're like the worst of them. So, as in, the Big Bad Wolf is one of the worst of, you know, he shows up in a lot of stories, he's the villain of a lot of fairy tales and so on. But he's trying to do good, you know, he's trying to help people, but also setting the Scarecrow on fire seems like a bad idea. Seems like it's the thing he's probably weakest to. Anyway, what happened to Lion? He's not in this. Lion is a coward, though. He's probably hiding in a closet somewhere. But yeah, then he turns into the Big Bad Wolf, and Dorothy seems like she's into it. Who'd have thought? Anyway, the original Wolf Among Us is excellent. Excellent writing. It's a bit glitchy. Crash on me, well, as we were trying to do a Let's Play of it. And I've been meaning to do a full Let's Play of it. Anyway, who knows when that's coming out, because that trailer said 2023 and that didn't happen. Right. 79. Alright, the last two of what we know, or rather, what have a 2024 release date. So we have Wu Chang Fallen Feathers was shown off at, I think, a State of Play from Sony ages ago. But it was slated for 2024. So until they say it's been cancelled, we can, I guess, assume it's still coming out then. It's a bit of a Soulsy type game, set in fantasy medieval China. I had this on my list, but to be honest, I don't remember why. I think I was interested in it, and I dropped it in my wish list, and trying to remember. There's so many games right now. There's at least 3 games that kind of feel interchangeable right now, and that's this, Wuchang Fallen Feathers, Where Winds Meet, and Rise of the Ronin, and they all feel it's obviously, diplomatically an issue for me to say that a game that looks like it's set in China and a game that looks like it's set in Japan look the same. That's, probably not great for me to say. Anyway, Wuchang Fallen Feathers, I think, is meant to be a kind of Souls-like thing. But obviously, the weapons that the character is using and stuff like that, there's going to be a certain element of acrobatic combat to it. This trailer seems to be shying away from showing actual gameplay. That must have been a different trailer that had the actual gameplay in it. Anyway, to be honest, I don't think this will make 2024. That's where I'm going with it anyway. But I put it in because the last we heard of it, it was 2024. Right, the last game that still has an actual 2024 release date is a game that's pretty much just for me, I think, because I don't think anybody else is interested in it. Zenless Zone Zero, like HoYoverse and MiHoYo continue to have incredible names for their games. Zenless Zone Zero is from MiHoYo or HoYoverse. These are the developers and publisher behind Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. So it's the same type of game. It's the same gacha mechanic thing where you're effectively gambling to get characters that you want, gambling for waifus or husbandos. Genshin Impact is a kind of real-time action-adventure type thing, set in a sort of medieval fantasy universe. Honkai Star Rail is set in the future and it's a turn-based role-playing game or turn-based action game. And Zenless Zone Zero is more of a near future, like cyberpunky kind of thing. Not really cyberpunk, it's more like just near futurism. But it is a sort of spectacle brawler type game. So much more action focused than Genshin Impact. Very high speed interactions and combat with enemies. It'll be interesting to see how this is handled, because Genshin isn't amazing at very fast-moving things. So we'll see how well it plays. It's debatable even if this will be multiplayer, because of how fast-paced it is. I don't think it would do well as a multiplayer-type game, but it might. Genshin's multiplayer, Honkai isn't. So who knows? Zenless might also be a single-player thing. Anyway, that is it for games coming out that we know of 2024. The next 10 and the last 10, these are games that maybe they'll come out in 2024. I doubt it, but they might. And if they did, that'd be great. But we don't know. They don't actually have a date attached to them. So number 1, Death Stranding 2. Death Stranding 2, again, as I said, doesn't have a date, and there's no date has been set for it. It is sort of speculated that it will be 2025, early 2025, probably, for Death Stranding 2. But it might slip in before the end of 2024, so we might see it then. Kojima being Kojima, we know nothing. We know nothing until the game is out. You think you saw something in the trailer, it didn't mean what you thought it meant, or it's just straight up not in the game at all. They're making shit up. Who knows? The original Death Stranding is not for everybody. I know the gameplay style is kind of fairly slow paced, and in some cases it's a bit monotonous, sure. But it does scratch that itch of, I don't even know how to explain that kind of gameplay. The kind of thing of, again, Power Wash Simulator, Hard Space Shipbreaker. It's like chore games or something. I don't know, where the chores get done and then they're done and that's it. There's no cleanup or anything. Everything goes the way you want it to go. If you could clean your house and you would know it's clean 100% and get like a little chime every time you clean it, I'd probably do it. Or if I had special tools to do these things and what have you, I don't know. Death Stranding obviously did have that kind of vibe because it was like a courier thing. Go from A to B, carry all the shit with you, carry as much of it as you can without falling over. And there are like action elements to it as well. Occasionally you'd have to drop down into like brigand outposts. I forget what they were called. Death Stranding 2, I don't know. Like the trailer is obviously showing a bit more, stealth and a bit of action to it, and a bike that would almost certainly topple over immediately. That baby's dead. Just squished the shit out of it. That baby is definitely dead. Anyway, there's no sign of Sandbridge as he is later on in the trailer. But anyway, that's Death Stranding 2. We don't know. We don't know when it's coming out. But hey, it might make the end of. It might make the end of 2024. Okay, next game that we don't know when it's coming out, but hey, it might come at the end of 2024 or by the end of 2024 is whatever the next Dark Pictures is. So as I said, Supermassive are working on too many things at once, and I think they are stretching themselves too thin, and I think a lot of their games are suffering because of it. But anyway, Directive 8020 was teased at the end of the last Dark Pictures, so if you haven't played the Dark Pictures games, usually when you get to the end of one of them, they tease the next one. So if you played The Man of Medan, you would have got a teaser for Little Hope. If you play Little Hope, you get a teaser for House of Ashes. House of Ashes, you get a teaser for Devil in Me. And at the end of Devil in Me, we got a teaser for Directive 8020, which seems to be set on a space station or a spaceship where, shenanigans have gone on. That was teased at the end of 2023, I think, when Devil in Me came out. That was also meant to be the end of the first season of the Dark Pictures, so they're starting a new season of it, so another 4 games, effectively. Thought you would see it at the end of this year, but that didn't happen. So one thing that's been sort of pointed out is that Supermassive 1, as you've seen, are working on a bunch of shit right now. So this potential, this has just taken a hit to scheduling. The other issue is that they have swapped to Unreal Engine 5, which also has probably taken a hit to their development processes as they have to change some things in their pipelines and so on. But you would think that they would probably have that ironed out by at least the end of next year. So while we may still not see Directive 8020 in 2024, I would expect Dark Pictures Season 2 would probably be... might possibly make Halloween 2024, so we'll see. 83 is Judas, which is the next thing from the developer behind... That's the wrong thing. I want to move the trailer. It's the next thing from the... Sorry, not the developer. The creative director behind Bioshock Infinite. Ken Levine. It's his new studio, Ghostfire or something. Ghostfire Stories? Something like that? Ghost Story, that's what it is. Okay. From the... citation needed on that one. He's not the creator of Bioshock, but okay. Judas is a first-person philosophical shootery type thing. Again, ostensibly you play Judas, maybe? You've betrayed somebody, somewhere, something? We don't know very much about the game. We just have this sort of tone setting. They've shown off a couple of different characters. But it has got a pretty strong Bioshock vibe to it, doesn't it? The original one, at least. This whole area got a bit of rapture to it. It's got a lot more rapture than it does Bioshock Infinite, Columbia, to it. But yeah, we've got weird plasmid stuff. One hand does a magic thing, one hand has a gun. It might as well just be Bioshock 4. Anyway. We know pretty much nothing about the game, though, or when it's coming out, if it's coming out. Are they still working on it? Who knows?
And you know what? They're right.
Okay, Mina the Hollower is the next thing from Yacht Club Games. Yacht Club Games being the Shovel Knight people, who have been working on a lot of things in the meantime, but this is their next big game. So moving on from Shovel Knight, they've had their fill of Shovel Knight at this point. Mina the Hollower has gone through its Kickstarter. I have backed it, disclosure. So Mina the Hollower looks like it's going to do for Castlevania what Shovel Knight did for like Shinobi style games. That's kind of the feel I'm getting from it anyway. It's kind of getting this kind of top-down Castlevania style thing. You know, Castlevania was very much a side-scrolling thing, but we'll see how this plays out. Shovel Knight was like very old school Castlevania. Mina the Hollower is a little bit not modern Castlevania exactly. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out. Shovel Knight is very, very good. I don't see how Mina the Hollower won't at the very least be a good game. Maybe not a very, very good game. Anyway, again, we don't know. We don't know when it's coming out. But it's been a while, and potentially it could make 2024. If it does, it'll be the end of 2024, but maybe. Phantom Blade Zero. I think Phantom Blade Zero is another interchangeable thing with Rise of the Ronin and Wuchang and Black Myth Wukong and so on. Let me find it first in my big folder of trailers. Phantom Blade Zero. Again, this is another one that I've added to this list that I need to remember because again, it's fucking interchangeable with a lot of these other games. Okay, yes, because this is what I was thinking Wuchang was, and it's not. This is Phantom Blade Zero. This is very different. Yes. Anyway, reasonably certain this is another Souls-y type thing. We're not seeing a whole lot. I'm sorry I'm skipping over in this trailer. But yeah, you can see if this is meant to be indicative of gameplay, then it's going to be a Souls type thing. Although, interesting, like, stealth mechanic there. And then it's got the sort of, it's like Chinese theater or this like wire fu kind of thing, but there's no wires here. Interesting parkour stuff going on. You know, it looks really nice and fluid, and the combat looks like it'll be fun. Who knows if it'll actually turn out that way, but we'll see. Anyway, that's Phantom Blade Zero. This guy has a fucking buster cannon. Interesting. That guy just standing on two horses fighting you. No case. Right. See why I get pulled in by some of these games. Anyway, Phantom Blade Zero, we don't know. Maybe. Alright, Pragmata by Capcom. Yeah, this is another we don't know. It's been delayed a good few times at this point. I sort of get the feeling that Capcom doesn't know what they want to do with the game. I don't think they know what kind of like genre or what kind of marketing they want to use for it or whatever. But for whatever reason, they've been holding back on kind of showing off more of it, or it's been given more time in development to maybe change direction or something. Pragmata, you're playing this sort of souped up astronaut guy in his astronaut armor. You carry a kind of 3D printer with you that makes, you just give it a formula and it makes whatever the thing is you want it to make for you. It's just a way for you to have multiple different ammo types for your gun, I think, but whatever. What kind of game it is, I don't know. Because all the trailers we've seen so far have been pretty much just pre-generated stuff. You seem to be on some kind of moon base, which isn't not particularly clear from this trailer. Only really becomes clear at the end of the trailer. Holographic weird cat drones. It's a drone that projects a hologram of a cat around it. You're here to pick up this girl who I think is an AI. I think she's like an AI in a child body or something. And some weird shit's going on here. As you can see, the sky is a big TV screen. And now a satellite has been yeeted into it. Gravity is now broken, and so on. And anyway, eventually, you grab the girl, you get out of here, and you land on the moon. It's all sorts of crazy nonsense and shenanigans. She seems to have strange, not magic powers, but like I said, she's some kind of robot thing, and she has just made something in your 3D printer that would help you. So whether it will play kind of like a Resident Evil 4 type, where the girl is Ashley Graham effectively, and the guy in the astronaut suit is the Leon S. Kennedy type, if that's what it is, but it's the future, I mean, I'd be fine with that. I have no issue with that. As you can see, she's standing on the moon and she can breathe perfectly fine. So, clearly she's not human. But good luck getting back to Earth, guys. Your jetpack will get you far, but yeah, coming 2022, that didn't happen. And then it was coming 2023, and it was a very cute trailer where the kid held up a little sign and they scribbled out the 3 and it said 4 on it. And anyway, it may be coming out in 2024. The last we heard of it, though, it was, it'll be out eventually. Just wait. We've got a lot of shit. Look, is Dragon's Dogma 2 not enough for you? And whatever the next Resident Evil remake is that not good? Is that not good enough? Okay, another kind of jokey one that I don't know when it's ever coming out. Hollow Knight Silk Song. Who the fuck knows? Who knows when this is coming out, honestly? Seems like it's been coming out. I might as well just put Half-Life 3 in there. That's what it feels like. If it ever does come out, it'll be a fucking joke. Anyway, Hollow Knight Silk Song was meant to be DLC for the original Hollow Knight, but it got so ambitious that Team Cherry were like, let's just make this its own thing. And I guess it's gotten so ambitious that it has taken them a very long time to commit to an actual release date. Again, this is probably a game that was really announced too early. And possibly had only just started development when it was actually announced, or what they showed off was what they had planned for the DLC, and then the main game has changed significantly. This is a very old trailer. But yeah, it's more Hollow Knight, but you're going to be playing Hornet instead, and Hornet is a much more acrobatic character than the protagonist of the original game. So this could end up being a lot more fast-paced. Also, that is a penis enemy. Hang on, where's the trailer? Go back. That's just a dick. Okay. Anyway, that's Silk Song. Who knows when that's coming out? I'm just putting. Honestly, I put this in here as more of a joke than anything else. Who knows? Who knows when it's actually coming out? If I had a trailer for Half-Life 3, I would put that in, but I don't. So there we are. Okay, 88. 88, Slitterhead. So, when I put this in, it didn't have a release date, but actually in the hour before I started this stream, there was a tweet from Boker Studios, or not, maybe it wasn't Boker Studios, somebody associated with the game anyway, was like, 2024 is going to be a big year for Slitterhead. Which I'm taking to mean the game's coming out in 2024 and not just they're going to show off more of it. Maybe it is they're just going to show off more of it. Anyway, Slitterhead, Boker Game Studio is a studio created by a bunch of veterans of Silent Hill, I think. There's a lot of veterans from Silent Hill who've gone off to make their own thing. This is a kind of, maybe it's Resident Evil, actually. I'm not sure. Anyway. Horrible Japanese folklore monsters. And your character is a sort of, hard-edged detective demon hunter thing. You're not like... What's the word? You're not a victim here. You're going to be taking it to these enemies and fighting them and killing them and keeping people safe, kind of thing. So this isn't really a horror game so much as it just has horror elements to it. But again, we don't know much about it because this trailer is old as fuck. This is like 2021, I think. Music by Akira Yamaoka. I mean, yeah, that's great music, but also he was attached to Stray Souls as well, and he's the only good part of Stray Souls, and it's probably where all the budget for Stray Souls went, was to just get him to do music for them. Anyway, we don't know when this game's coming out, but maybe it's coming out next year. All right, 89. Stellar Blade. So actually Stellar Blade is sort of in the same wheelhouse as Slitterhead, because again, I had put this in not knowing when exactly it was coming out, but just that it might be 2024, possibly 2025. But Sony put out a blog post maybe 2 days ago where they kind of laid out what they expect 2024 to be, or at least for the games that they have already announced. And, they mentioned Helldivers, Rise of the Ronin, some other stuff. that I don't quite remember. None of it's first party Sony stuff. Anyway, Stellar Blade was one of them. So they are at least committed right now to it being released in 2024. When in 2024, we don't know. They didn't go so far as to say when. But a lot of the games they had mentioned in that blog post were all first half of 2024, so quarter 2 at the latest. So it's possible Stellar Blade will make quarter 2 of 2024, maybe. We haven't seen a whole lot of it since its name change. It was Project Eve for a good while, and then they changed it to Stellar Blade. Since the name change, this is the last we've seen of it. Let me skip to gameplay. So it is a Soulsy type thing from a Korean developer called Shift Up. I don't think it will be quite as punishing as a Soulsy type, but that is kind of how it's positioning itself. But I don't think it'll be actually as difficult as a Souls type thing. Maybe, I could be wrong. We're not really sure. A lot of just combat-focused action-adventure RPG types, action RPGs, what have you, have been positioning themselves as Soulsy types, and not all of them are, always. It's a big gun. Okay, anyway. Alright, Stellar Blade might make it out in 2024, based on the PlayStation blog post, slightly more likely than a lot of the other games we've seen. Alright, this last game is more of a Hail Mary from me. Maybe it'll come out. Maybe. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for a Soul Reaver remake or reboot. Please. Will it happen? No. Of course it won't. But, you know, I can hope and pray. God, this trailer is so small. It's so fucking old. I can put you all the way over here at least. Anyway, yeah, Soul Reaver. Will it ever get a remake or a reboot or whatever? You know, against my better instincts, I thought when Embracer Group bought Crystal Dynamics. Yeah, so this is the big support shit. This is pulled from the website. Anyway, because obviously there's no trailer for a Soul Reaver remake, so I don't have anything to show. So this is the old one. It's not even a trailer, it's just the intro to the game. The Legacy of Kain series is an extremely over-the-top, melodramatic, almost Shakespearean thing with vampires. It's insane, and I love it, and I just want more of it. Like, I'd love a sequel, to be honest, the continuation of the story, but it's been so long that I don't see them doing that, that if they were ever to bring back the IP, the franchise, the series, the name, the brand, whatever, the characters, the story, if they were ever to bring it back, they'd have to just restart. It's been too long. They'd either have to restart it or repackage the old games. Because right now, they're very difficult to play. PC ports don't really work that well, and they're PS1, PS2 titles. So getting, you basically have to get an emulator to run them, and getting an emulator to run them properly is going to be tricky. Because these were... The original Soul Reaver was sort of ahead of its time with how loading worked. So while there are loading screens in Soul Reaver, you don't actually come across them too often, because it was one of the first games to institute asset streaming on the disc. Now, you might not even realize that that's a thing or anything like that, but there's only so many things in memory in a video game at once. And then usually when you get from one area to another area, they deload all the stuff you've gone through, and they load in a lot of stuff that you're going to get to in like 5 minutes, assuming you're going to keep going in that direction. So you never see a loading screen, right? They only have the stuff you're in and the stuff you might go to and the stuff you were just in, and all that stuff is still in memory, and everything else is just sort of theoretical right now. The assets haven't been loaded in. Before Soul Reaver, now it wasn't the first game necessarily to do this, but it's certainly one of the higher profile games that did it. Games didn't do that. They just loaded in where you were, and if you needed to go anywhere, you'd hit a loading screen, they'd load all the stuff in, and then they'd drop you in. Soul Reaver was one of the first games to, we know where you're going, it's a linear enough game, we know where you're going, we're just going to load all that stuff in now. And by the time you get to it, the load will have finished. Now, if you move too fast, you'll still hit a loading screen. But it was there. It was one of the first games to do that. Nowadays, the way they get around that is they put in a loading shimmy, where your character needs to shimmy their way through a rock wall, and then they load everything behind it while you're doing the shimmy. Yeah, in some ways we've sort of gone backwards with the weird asset streaming stuff. Anyway, that's Soul Reaver. Will it ever happen? No. Certainly not with the way Embracer Group's going now. As I said, against my better instincts, I thought Embracer Group might bring it back, but we know from our industry bullshit segments in the news recaps that I do every week, Embracer Group don't have the money to do something like that right now. So that IP is going to continue to languish in the Crystal Dynamics vaults, and we'll probably never see it ever again. Anyway, that's 90 games for you to check out at your leisure, coming out in 2024. Right, that is it for me. I've been talking for a very long time. More than 3 hours. My voice is gone. I have another stream to do tomorrow, so I'm going to need to rest it. Let me know what any of those games you're looking forward to, the one you're looking forward to the most, least, game I missed, anything like that. Thanks for the follows from 2 people who then spammed a bunch of sound effects. I think maybe they're too cheap. Maybe, again, I might need to make those, because I had cheapened them because people weren't using them. But I think the issue was that the people who do use the sound effects were holding off for the more expensive things that aren't sound effects, that are just stupid shit. Anyway, I'll talk more about that in our 2023 recap tomorrow. So we will have the weekly news recap as usual. It being pretty much the end of the year, there's not a lot of news going on. So that segment's going to be short. Not going to be a whole lot to talk about. Still bullshit. Still industry bullshit that we'll be able to talk about, but, So I'm probably going to use a lot of that stream to just talk about the channel in 2023 instead. Because we did a lot of good stuff this year. And by we, I mean me. As you guys were also there. Anyway, I'm going to head off before my voice dies completely. Thanks to Melwan for keeping me company there at the beginning. And my 2 new followers, Johnny the Toilet, I think was one of them. Or just Johnny Toilet. And Rachel IY? I don't know. Anyway, I don't have my fucking list up because my phone just died. Anyway, thanks for that. Again, do let me know in, the YouTube comments, I suppose. If you are looking forward to any of those games, or if there's any games on that list that I missed that is on your 2024 list, and so on. Or you can drop by the Discord and hang out with me there instead. You join the Discord there. There's a link in the chat. I'll leave a link in the YouTube description if you want to do that as well. Right. I'm going to head off. Have a good rest of your evening, a good rest of your year. And hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow for the weekly news recap. But otherwise, we'll see you again on Tuesday for Final Fantasy 3. Right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.